traveling from Hunter. Author, Battle Ring. Chapter 226 Killing, Thunder Dragon Demon Crystal. The earth-shattering explosion resounded through the sky, and countless people were attracted by the sudden, deafening sound, and one by one involuntarily stopped and looked towards the sky. This look, everyone was shocked because they saw that above the sky, the evil dragon was fighting fiercely with a blue figure. As for the blue figure, they didn't need to guess that it was a human figure because only humans have this body type. Humans can rival dragons. After the shock, the emotions of the residents in the small town who were originally fearful of the destruction of the town by the thunder dragons changed again and again, becoming high-spirited. The unknown strong wizard, kill it, kill that beast. Kill Ling him, crush him to ashes. Please, the unknown strong wizard, kill that beast and avenge everyone. The human beings who suffered from the giant dragon exploded after seeing the appearance of humans who could rival the giant dragon. Their eyes were red, as if they wanted to eat the dragon's meat and drink the dragon's meat. Even the mayor of the small town and others had red eyes and roared loudly. It seems that you are really guilty of killing dragons, Fischer said with a light smile as he punched the thunder dragon flying away. Damn it, those ants, I'll kill you. The thunder dragon that was blasted out by Fischer also noticed what happened in the small town below, and suddenly became angry from embarrassment. A group of ants shouted to kill him, which was an unbearable shame for this noble dragon. The ferocious mouth opened, and the golden thunder and lightning condensed in the dragon's mouth, aiming at the ground. Odo, I can't let you kill them. I still need these guys. Seeing the dragon's plan, Fischer flashed, rushed out, and blasted over with a thunderbolt, knocking down the thunder dragon. The attack is interrupted, forcing the thunder dragon in front of him to fight with him, unable to attack the small town below. He still needs these townspeople. After all, I will stay at Maldian Academy of Magic for a long time next. Supplies during this period will be obtained from this small town. Let this guy destroy the town and go further afield to resupply, which is not cost-effective. Although he has the flickering magic, he can go back and forth at will. But Fischer still doesn't want to be so troublesome. The powerful thunder wrapped around Fischer's fist, and Fischer bombarded the thunder-type dragon one by one. That's right. It's bombing. Fischer's attack is very powerful. Just a simple punch on the thunder dragon will cause a deafening explosion. Each hit felt like a ground-to-ground missile. Even if the giant dragon in front of him is a dragon clan, and it is a thunder-type dragon, it is still unable to resist Fischer's lightning-type melee attack. No matter how much he defended, the injuries on his body continued to increase, and became more and more serious. Humans, are you really planning to fight to the death with my dragon family? Facing Fischer's thunder attack, the thunder dragon's injuries became more and more serious. This thunder dragon couldn't stand it anymore, and roared loudly. Come out. He was scared. He didn't dare to continue fighting Fischer. It was the first time he encountered such an existence as Fischer. As a physically weak human being, Fischer was the first being able to push him to such a degree in melee combat. Among the human beings he had encountered before, this situation did not exist at all. Only by gathering a large number of mages and relying on various geographical advantages to gather the power of many mages can humans force him back. However, that is just magic, some long-range magic, and no human being dares to engage in close combat with him. No, yes, there were human beings who challenged him beyond their means and came to attack him with weapons, but they were all easily killed by him. Although the monster Fischer used the power of magic, he fought him close to the flesh, suppressing him with his powerful physique and the power of lightning magic. This is the first time this has happened in hundreds of years. For a long time, only other giant dragons of the same dragon family can fight with giant dragons. There is no such monster in human beings. And now, this monster appeared. Moreover, as soon as he appeared, he was suppressed. He was really scared. As his body was continuously bombarded by Fischer's attacks, he could feel his injuries getting more and more serious. If it continues, it is estimated that in less than an hour, he will lose or even fall due to serious injuries. He could feel that Fischer wanted to kill him, and still really wanted to kill him. In order to survive, he could only pull out the banner of the Dragon Clan, hoping that the existence of the Dragon Clan would make Fischer fearful and let Fischer spare his life. Human beings have begged you for mercy. I don't think you have spared the human beings you tortured and killed. The law of the jungle, survival of the fittest. Unknown Dragon Clan, don't embarrass the Dragon Clan. Hearing this, Fischer was taken aback for a moment. But then a more powerful attack broke out and blasted out. Boom! Facing Fischer's incomparably terrifying power, even if the Thunder Dragon's most powerful defense erupted, it still couldn't block the blow. An incomparably huge gap was directly blown out of the chest. Damn it, wait, human. There will be people from the tribe who will come to you and avenge me. 3.1 inches. Feeling the continuous loss of his own breath of life, the Thunder Dragon knew that he was about to fall, and immediately burst out his boundless anger, and issued a yell at Fischer threat announcement. Let them come, I'll wait. Holding a golden Thunder Dragon magic crystal in his hand, facing the dying threat of the Thunder Dragon, Fischer accepted the threat with a calm expression. I just want to see the strength of other giant dragons, especially those of the Dragon King level. A dragon of your level is too weak. The giant lightning dragon that hadn't died completely shrank its pupils when it heard Fischer's words, and then let out a final roar. Damn it! After fighting for a long time, I was actually regarded as a weak person. He is unwilling. Chapter 227. The Vision of the Second Generation of Dragon Slayers. Sure enough, my current strength is stronger than the Dragon Clan in this world. I just don't know how it compares to the Dragon King level. Just now, I used 7 layers of strength to kill this Thunder Dragon. In the Dragon King level, except for the Black Dragon King Actione who will be born in the future, the strength of the other Dragon Kings should not be so terrifying, and should be on par with my current strength. Phew, this is a good thing for me. Looking at the falling corpse of the giant dragon, Fischer thought silently, then waved his hand, and put the corpse of the Thunder Dragon into the system space. The corpse of the giant dragon is also a rare treasure. Although I haven't thought of what to use it for, it can be stored for the time being. After all, the strong physique of the Dragon Clan is also a good material. If you want to learn most of the magic in this world, magic research is essential. Just like Jeref, in order to learn all kinds of magic, and even develop all kinds of magic, almost 400 years ago, he was doing magic research and mastering all kinds of magic. It wasn't until the launch of the Eclipse Gate project that Jeref, who became Onine alone, stopped researching and embarked on the road of wandering. Jeref's magic aptitude is very strong, and he has mastered a lot of magic at this age. Fischer thinks that his original talent in magic is not as good as that of Jeref, but with a tenfold increase, Fischer is confident that he can surpass Jeref in learning magic. But even so, if you want to learn a lot of magic, magic research is indispensable. To conduct research, a large amount of materials are required, and the body of the dragon is definitely the most powerful of all kinds of magic materials. In this situation, how could Shell not accept the corpse of a giant dragon? After collecting the corpse of the Thunder-type dragon, Fischer ignored the cheering town residents who saw him kill the Thunder-type dragon, and went straight back to his hotel room. Sitting on the edge of the bed, Fischer took out the warm Thunder Dragon crystal with a wave of his hand, and carefully looked at it. The reason why he took action against this Thunder Dragon this time was not only to verify his strength level in this world and to save the town, but also for another reason. That is to obtain the magic crystal of the Thunder Dragon. Since he wants to master most of the magic in this world, then the magic of the Dragon Clan, Shell, will naturally not let it go. And if you want to understand the magic of the Dragon Clan, apart from finding the Dragon Clan of the Affinity faction to learn about it, you can only get the Dragon Slayer Demon Crystal. For now, Fischer doesn't know where to find the giant dragon of the Affinity faction. It just so happens that this time the Thunder Dragon comes to his door, so how could Fischer let it go? It's just a magic crystal, but it actually contains such a huge magic power. This level of magic power, even the magic power in my body can't match it now. Dragon Slayer Demon Crystal. This thing will become a job change tool for the second generation of Dragon Slayer Mage in the future. Integrate the Dragon Magic Crystal to obtain the Dragon Magic in the Magic Crystal and become a Dragon Slayer Wizard. After all, the essence of dragon slaying magic is the attacking moves of the Dragon Clan. It was born from the high-ranking additional magic of Irene Servillian, the Queen of Dragons. Irene's high-level additional magic added the magic of the Dragon Clan to humans, and these humans became the first generation of Dragon Slayer Wizards after mastering the magic of the Dragon Clan. After that, the Dragon Slayer magician killed the dragon, and the Dragon Magic Crystal appeared. Such a terrifying magical power cannot be resisted by a human body. How did the second-generation Dragon Slayers in the original work come about? The strength of those second-generation Dragon Slayers is so stretched outside of Luxus. Moreover, the Luxus guy didn't show much power after implanting the Thunder Dragon Slayer Crystal. The power of the Dragon's Magic Crystal was not revealed at all. Could it be because the future Dragon Slayer Crystal is the result of being castrated by time, right? After thinking carefully for a while, Fischer came to such a conclusion. The Dragon Slayer Crystal, this kind of thing all appeared in this era. Many dragons were killed by the Dragon Slayer Wizards born in this era, especially that guy Actione who bathed in the blood of the dragon and became the first dragon transformer. After 400 years of the magic crystal left by the giant dragon, the magic power in the magic crystal body is almost consumed, and only the dragon magic in the magic crystal is left. In hundreds of years of research, the latecomers have developed the second generation of Dragon Slayer Demon King. At that time, most of the magic power in the dragon magic crystal disappeared due to the passage of time, and it became a level that humans could fuse. This is the case of ordinary human beings. With my physique, I can fuse the just-baked dragon magic crystal. However, this thing doesn't seem to be useful to me. After all, my strength is stronger than the owner of this magic crystal. Pour 677 can be used to train subordinates. If you can master the magic power of this magic crystal, you can definitely ascend to the sky in one step and become a strong person. As for the problem that the magical power of the magic crystal disappears with the passage of time, there is no need to worry about it at all, and this problem will not occur at all in the system space. The question now is how to make ordinary human beings fuse with such a huge magic crystal. It has to be studied carefully. At that time, there will be a dragon slayer in my immediate housekeeper, and he will be a second-generation dragon slayer who will not be castrated. The picture should not be too beautiful when you think about it. Thinking silently in his heart, Fischer's smile slowly appeared on his face. In Fischer's view, the dragons of this world can be compared with Neferpitu and Menthuthuipi, a large group of Neferpitu and Menthuthuipi level housekeepers. The picture is really not too beautiful. If so many direct stewards of this level can be obtained, then how terrifying the power of the Zoldyck family will be. However, there is a long way to go. I hope Jeff will give me some strength. Thinking of this, Shell looked up out of the window. Chapter 228 Goodbye Jeff, Request. The matter of Fischer's hotel in the small town was discovered the next day. The leaders of the small town came to visit at the first time, but they were declined by Fischer. These guys came to thank him, which Fischer didn't care about at all. Although I will come here for supplies in the future, my next plan is destined to not have much to do with this small town. Fischer didn't want to waste time on this kind of thing either. Throughout the day, Fischer meditates. Although Fischer has not increased his magic power since he acquired magic power, that is because the world he was in before did not have any natural elements that could be refined into magic power, that is, magic essence. But just because it hasn't been refined doesn't mean Fischer won't. The method of meditation to increase magic power, Fischer has been able to do it since he got magic, but it has never been used. Now in this world, meditation can play a role. Fischer's meditative effects are very powerful. In the whole town, magic essence invisible to the naked eye quickly gathered under Fischer's cultivation. In the blink of an eye, the small town hotel has become a place where magic essence gathers. Under Fischer's terrifying absorption, the originally invisible magic essence presented a violently rotating funnel, continuously pouring into the town hotel from above the town hotel, and sinking into Fischer's room. Everyone in the small town saw this scene. Everyone was shocked. However, this shocking scene is not very shocking compared to last night when Fischer fought and killed the dragon. However, if this is the case, it also shocked the hearts of those who witnessed this scene, especially the leaders of the town and the few magicians. Have you been in touch with Mildian Academy of Magic? The mayor of the town asked the contact person who had previously contacted Mildian Academy of Magic. They already knew that Fischer was wearing the costume of the Mildian Academy of Magic. Fischer belonged to the Mildian Academy of Magic. So now they are eager to get in touch with Mildian Academy of Magic. As for the purpose, it is self-evident. They want Mildian Academy of Magic to protect them. Is a true blessing. They hope that if other giant dragons attack here in the future, Mildian Academy of Magic can protect their town so that their town will not be destroyed. Not yet. I still haven't been able to contact you Vertical Bar. The person in charge replied, frowning and biting his head. Since the magic can't be contacted, then send someone there. The town mayor frowned and ordered. Yes, I'll arrange it right away. The person in charge nodded, agreed, and then left to make arrangements for this matter. It's really scary. This situation is definitely because the adult inside is practicing. This is the first time this old man has seen such a situation. The old man with a high status beside the mayor looked at the scene above the town and sighed. If we can get the protection of this lord, then we don't have to worry about the threat of the dragon anymore. The mayor of the town nodded and said seriously. The main purpose of his contact with Mildian Academy of Magic this time is Fischer, who is now in the hotel. Because among the wizards of Mildian Academy of Magic, only Fischer can deal with a giant dragon and can guarantee their safety. As for the thoughts of the mayor of the small town, Fxi did not know. At this time, Fischer was enjoying the pleasure of rising magic power in his body. Perhaps it was because Fischer's body was strong enough to quickly accommodate a large amount of magic essence and convert the magic essence into his own magic power. Or maybe it's because of the tenfold increase. In just this short hour, Fischer felt that the magic power in his body had increased by about 5%. Although it is only 5%, you must know that although Fischer's current magic power cannot be compared with that of the giant dragon, it can definitely be compared with the later generations of the 10 holy wizards. It took only 1 hour to increase so much magic power. If it continues like this, it will only take less than half a year for Fischer to ensure that his magic power can match the magic power of the dragon he killed last night. Volume compared. As expected of a magical civilized world, this world is so friendly to magicians. Opening his eyes, Fischer said with a faint smile, then closed his eyes again, and continued to refine his history. Time passed quickly, and a day passed in a blink of an eye. As the sun rose, Fischer slowly opened his eyes and stopped his practice for the day. Thud, it's time to go to Jeff. Without any movement, Fischer's figure disappeared from the room in an instant. When it reappeared, it was already at Mildian Academy of Magic. At this time, the Magic Academy of Mildian Academy of Magic is no longer shrouded in black magic power like it was yesterday. This represents that Jeref has temporarily controlled the curse of contradiction. You're here. The flickering imprint of the magic used by Fischer landed on the square of the academy, and this guy, Jeff, happened to be here, and he smiled faintly after seeing Fischer. Vertical bar. It seems that you are in good control. Seeing that Jeref was no longer as expressionless as the day before yesterday, and was able to smile without triggering the contradictory curse, Fischer was also a little surprised, and said with a smile, "You told me about the black magic in me, so it can be controlled in a short time. Jeref nodded slightly. I didn't expect that there was such a powerful existence as you in the academy. Why were you so unknown before? After answering, Jeref began to communicate with Fischer. Jeref knew that Fischer was very powerful, even stronger than the strongest dean in this academy. The dean was instantly deprived of his life by the magic power on his body, but Fischer resisted the magic power and was able to stand in front of him. This situation has already told Jeref Sil's strength. So he was curious why Fischer, who had such strength, was not well known in the academy. It's a little troublesome to say, and it's not an important thing, so let's skip him. Fischer shook his head lightly, and didn't want to explain. Already, after all, my identity is arranged by the system, so it is a bit troublesome to explain. Immediately, Fischer went straight to the point, directly expressing his purpose. Jeref, you have learned most of the magic in the academy. Can you teach me? Magic? Okay, if you want to learn, I will teach you. After all, you and I are the last two wizards in this academy. Regarding Fischer's sudden proposal to learn magic from himself, Jeref was slightly taken aback, because Fischer's burst of power before was very powerful, but now he suddenly told himself that he wanted to learn magic from him, which is nothing short of fantasy. However, he didn't think too much about it, and agreed directly. As Fischer said, none of this matters. He and Fischer are now the last lineages in the academy. Thinking of this, Jeref was extremely sad, with a sad expression, and the Black Death hunt broke out in an instant. The corner of Fischer's mouth twitched, and then thunder flashed instantly. Chapter 229 Fairy Tale World's First Friend. Maybe it's because Fischer is the only other survivor of the Midian Academy of Witchcraft and Magic. In terms of learning magic, Jeref taught Fischer everything he could. As long as Fischer wants to learn, and he will, Jeref will teach patiently. Moreover, they are all taught from the basics and progressed layer by layer. This saves Fischer a lot of trouble. In terms of magic, Fischer can be said to have mastered all 6 senses except meditation, which is a magic power-enhancing magic. With Jeref's serious teaching, plus Fischer's talent is already good, and has a tenfold increase in assist ability. With the teachings of famous teachers, powerful talent, and learning ability, Fischer has made rapid progress in magic. Even the existence of Jeref, who is known as the strongest mage in the millennium, is not as good as it is. In just a few days, Fischer learned 10 kinds of magic from Jeref. Of course, I just learned it, and didn't fully master it. However, with Fischer's ability, it doesn't take too much time to fully master these magics. Magic is not like you need to rack your brains to develop it. In this world, the predecessors plant trees and the descendants enjoy the shade. 353, 400 years ago, the world of fairy tale also had a lot of magic handed down from ancient times. You only need to learn step by step to learn and master it. Not to mention being taught by Jeref, the most reliable magic teacher in the fairy tale world. Various conditions contributed to Fischer's rapid success in learning magic. In the past I have been called the most talented student in the history of the establishment of the college by the teachers and deans in the college. But now it seems that you are the most talented mage in the academy. Looking at Fischer, who learned a kind of magic again under his own explanation, Jeref expressed emotion. You still teach well. Without your explanation, I would not be able to do this kind of thing at all. My foundation is too poor. Fischer shook his head slightly and said modestly. Although they only got along for a few days, Fischer already regarded Jeref as his friend. Because these few days, Jeref took great care of Fischer, almost in every possible way. Whenever Fischer needs anything, Jeref will find a way to satisfy Fischer. Whatever magic Fischer wants to learn, Jeref will teach him as soon as possible, and if he wants any magic literature, Jeref will quickly find it for Fischer. Even the food was brought back by Jeref from the small town where Fischer stayed for 2 days. For Jeff's approach, Fischer naturally knew the reason. Guilty. Jeref feels very guilty about Fischer. In Jeff's view, it was his presence that caused Fischer to lose his companions in the academy and become a loner. So Jeref tried every means to make up for Fischer, and responded to Sil's needs. Even after knowing that Fischer had the idea of learning all the magic on the continent, as an instructor, Jeref deliberately learned the magic that he had missed before and was irrelevant to him. The purpose is to teach Fischer when Fischer needs it. It can be said that Fischer puts everything in his heart and puts it first. And all this stems from the destruction of Mildian Academy of Magic and guilt towards Fischer. Fischer knew all about this, but Sil didn't say anything about it. After all, it was impossible for him to disclose his situation to Jeref. And Jeff's contribution also made Fischer regard Jeref as his only friend in this world. Jeref is so devoted to himself and does his best to help him with what he has to do, which is enough for Fischer to list him as his friend. No, your talent is truly terrifying, and there is no need to be humble about it. Facing Fischer's words, Jeref disagreed and corrected. He really felt that Fischer's talent was more terrifying than his. Even if you don't solve the puzzle yourself, with Fischer's talent, you will quickly master these magics. I just shortened, a little bit of time. Whatever you want. Speaking of which, your death hunting can be controlled? Fischer shook his head, not arguing with Jeref on this point, and changed the subject to focus on the contradictory curse on Jeref. This guy erupted once when he first came back, and then erupted once a few hours later. 1 day later, there were 2 outbreaks, and 1 outbreak on the 3rd day. On the 4th day, it no longer flared up. And today is the same. There is no outbreak. So Fischer wondered if the guy had it under control. No, it's just that I have developed a magic that can close my thoughts and temporarily close my respect for life. However, this magic has a big flaw. I can't meet other people, otherwise it will be easy to arouse my heart. Moreover, as time goes by, this magic will gradually lose its effect. Mentioning himself, Jeref's face was instantly filled with sadness and gloom. With the existence of the contradictory curse, I will not be able to contact people in the future because it is easy to break out of death hunting, and then kill the creatures that have come into contact with you. In other words, Fischer has the power to resist his own death hunting, so Jeff is not afraid that Fischer will die because of the death hunting. That's one of the reasons Jeff treated Fischer so well, because, only with the existence of Fischer, he is not alone. Even if there is a contradictory curse, creatures can still stand beside him. Suppress the mind, the magic of thoughts, and it was created in just a few days. Sure enough, Jeff, you are the most powerful wizard. Hearing Jeff's explanation, Saul couldn't help being amazed. Thank you, I still think your talent is stronger. Once you have laid your foundation, you think you can do better than me, Jeff said with a slight smile. I will accept your auspicious words. So, Jeff, let's get right to the point. You touch the taboo of life and death because you want to resurrect your brother. Bring your brother's body here, and I'll see if I can revive your brother. With a faint smile, Fischer changed the subject and said seriously. Exclamation mark. What did you say? With a surprised face, Jeff looked at Fischer in disbelief, as if he felt that there was something wrong with his ears, and his heart was beating rapidly. Bring over your brother's body, and I'll see if I can revive him. Knowing the change in this guy's mentality, Fischer said again. Now that he already regards Jeff as a friend, then Xingqiu naturally doesn't mind helping in this regard. My own natural teeth can just resurrect life, maybe I can give it a try. I see, I'm going to bring Naz here now. Chapter 230 Touching the Taboo. Soon, Jeff ran over with a pale cherry-haired child wrapped in a white cloth covered with magic runes. The cherry-haired child held by Jeref is none other than Atria's Naz Dranil, the protagonist of the fairy tale world. At this time, Naz didn't make any sound, and even the corpse was preserved so well because of the white cloth covered with magic runes wrapped around his body. Those magic runes seemed to be able to suspend the time around them, making Natsu Dranil's time stop forever in the gap between time and time. Therefore, even though he had been dead for a long time, Naz Dranil was only pale, without any other changes. Fischer, please. Quickly running in front of Fischer, Jeff placed Natsu on the table in front of Fischer, looking at Fischer expectantly. I can't be sure, I can only try. Fischer is not sure, because it is the first time for him to use natural teeth. The resurrection is also the first time. It's okay, just do your best. Jeff was slightly taken aback when he heard this, and then said with a far-fetched smile on his face. Obviously, he has now recovered from the initial surprise and has calmed down. Fortunately, he didn't explode the death hunt just now. Based on his extravagant desire for life just now, it is not surprising that Fischer has had several death hunts. Without speaking, Fischer nodded slightly to Jeff, and then took out the natural teeth from the system space. Jeff was not surprised by the sudden appearance of natural teeth. Because of this magic of storing items and props, he will also. What Jeff cares about is, what is Fischer doing with a knife? Of course, Fischer didn't know what Jeff was thinking. At this time, Fischer had already slowly grasped the hilt of Damxingya's knife. His gaze was slightly fixed, and a pulsation appeared on the body of Damxingya he was holding. In Fischer's sight, the surrounding space lost its color at this moment, only gray. Looking at Natsu on the table, Fischer could see that the white cloth wrapped around Natsu exuded a faint silver light, which was the light of time. It is a time rune researched by Jeref to preserve Natsu's body. However, Fischer doesn't care about these things. What Fischer cares about now is the situation with Naz. What's going on here? Eyes narrowed slightly, Fischer was puzzled by what happened to Naz. There is no kid at all, but I can feel that as long as the natural teeth in my hand cut Naz's body, then I can revive him. Is it because the world is different? When Damxingya is used in the world of Inuyasha, little ghosts will appear because there is an underworld in that world, and those little ghosts are the messengers of the underworld. And the world of fairy tale doesn't exist in the underworld, so there won't be such a thing as a soul ecstasy. A person's death is like a lamp going out, and his soul will not be taken away. The first president of fairy tale, Mobius, exists as a soul not because he is dead, but because he is still alive. His body is killed, his soul still exists, and he still has Anxla on his body. The curse of God muse immortality, so he is in a half-dead state. Thinking silently in his heart, Fischer quickly swung his natural teeth at Natsu under Jeref's frightened eyes. Buzz! A white ray of light emerged instantly, completely enveloping Naz. What's going on? Jeref, who was panicked when Fischer suddenly swung a knife at his brother's body, was stunned when he saw this scene. It should have survived. Fischer slowly inserted his natural teeth back into the scabbard, and said lightly. He could feel his natural teeth working. This means that Natsu will come back to life later. It should be at the moment when the light dissipates. Really? Fischer's affirmative tone made Jeref very happy. At the same time, he could also feel the breath of life appearing in the light. Buzz! The Black Death Hunt burst. Seeing the sudden eruption of Jeref, Fischer's eyes twitched, and he appeared in front of the light transformed by Natsu with lightning speed. Blocking Death Hunt. 0. Seeking flowers 0. Calm down, Jeref. If your brother dies again, he won't be able to be resurrected again. Fischer yelled at Jeref. Sorry, Fischer. Thank you very much. After being reprimanded by Fischer, Jeref also regained his composure. A lot of cold sweat broke out on his forehead, and his face was full of fear. Feeling joyful because of his younger brother's resurrection, he couldn't control his thoughts for a while, and directly broke out a contradictory curse. If Fischer hadn't stopped his death hunt in time, his revived brother would have died again, and it was still by his own hands. 0. In an instant, the surprise in Jeff's heart disappeared completely, replaced by boundless fear. Contradictory curse. Hateful. Jeref lowered his head, clenched his teeth, and blood continued to flow from his mouth. Seeing this scene, Fischer was slightly taken aback, but then he knew Jeff's state at this time. It's so sad. Even if I revive his brother, he can't be with his brother. All this is because of the curse of God Angslem. Looking at Jeref's annoyed look at this moment, Fischer muttered inwardly. However, I have also touched the boundary between life and death now. Why didn't God Angslem do anything to me? Fischer frowned, thinking puzzledly. Jeref touched the boundary between life and death, and the taboo was cursed. But now he has completely broken the boundary between life and death, resurrected Nazdranil. Why did Angslem God not do anything to him? As soon as the thought came here, Fischer felt an invisible force fall on him. This is the curse of God Angslem. The first time Fischer felt this power, he knew the source of this power! Exclamation mark. Boom. The broken divinity in Fischer exploded at this moment. 10. Chapter 231, The Ending of Mutual Loss. The power of God. It's really unfathomable. Even I can't resist it now. If it weren't for Lemuel's broken divinity, I would have been hit like Jeref. Feeling the power that silently fell on him being wiped out by the broken divinity bit by bit, Fischer felt in his heart. Silently. There is no doubt that the god of fairy tale, Angslem, is on the same level as the gods of Hunter. This point is known from the fact that this guy's curse can be entangled with a broken divinity. However, because it was just a curse, it was only entangled for a moment before the broken divinity took over and was gradually wiped out. Fischer, are you alright? At this moment, Jeref finally noticed the changes in Fischer, and a frightened look of 840 appeared on his face because he could feel that the same power as himself appeared in Fischer. However, the next moment, Jeref was stunned, because he felt that the power in Fischer's body, which was the same as his own, gradually disappeared after the powerful thunder erupted from Fischer's body. In just 10 seconds, that contradictory curse completely disappeared from Fischer's body. Fischer can erase the curse of contradiction. The thought came to Jeref's mind. Fischer saw Jeref's reaction, but he ignored it. Instead, he looked up at the sky and waited quietly. It should be the first time that his own broken divinity obliterated the curse of God Angslem. Fischer didn't believe that Angslem would stop there. Sure enough, the next moment, a more powerful force descended from the sky, and the black light shrouded directly towards Fischer. This is the power of God Angslem. Jeref looked at this scene in shock, looking at Fischer and Natsu who were shrouded in black light. Affected by the contradictory curse of Angslem, Jeref is very aware of the power of Angslem. Seeing Fischer now surrounded by the power of Angslem made him very disturbed. From the past few days of getting along, Jeref knows that Fischer is very powerful, a power that does not belong to magic, and can resist the black magic power of death released by the curse of contradiction. Just now, a very terrifying thunder erupted, which directly resisted the curse of God Angslem and wiped out the power of the curse. But it's different now. What appeared this time was not a curse, but the real power of God Angslem, which was far from the previous curse. He was afraid that Fischer would not be able to hold back the force. Once Fischer can't stop this force, then Fischer and his newly resurrected brother will die again. Jeref was terrified. It's my own reason. I knew that touching the taboo of life and death would attract the attention of God Angslem, but when Fischer said that he had the ability to revive Natsu, he selectively forgot about this, so Fischer touched this taboo. Thus here comes the gaze of the God Angslem. Even because of the powerful power on Fischer, God Angslem directly lowered his own power. Everything is my fault. It is my selfishness that caused everything now. If it weren't for my selfishness, the people of Mildian Academy of Magic would not have their lives wiped out by death hunting. If it wasn't for my selfishness, Fischer wouldn't have been noticed by God Angslem like me. It will not attract the power of Angslem God itself. Everything is my fault. There was a huge change in his heart, and Jeff's eyes, which were as dark as black pearls, gradually lost their focus, and he fell into the inner confusion. At the same time, Fischer, who was shrouded in black magic power, that is, the divine power of Angslem, was safe and sound. The broken divinity in Fischer's body that had just subsided broke out again, Confronting the power of God Angslem, Fischer could feel that both the power of God Angslem and the broken divinity in himself were constantly weakening in the confrontation. However, the Angslem god's power disappeared faster, twice as fast as the broken divinity disappeared. The power descended by God Angslem is not its original power, but its amount is very large. On the contrary, the broken divinity is Lemuel's original power, the source of his gods, but the amount of this broken divinity is very small. From the perspective of the essence of power, my broken divinity is a level stronger than the essence of the power of God Angslem. However, according to this situation, the broken divinity will be offset sooner or later, because my broken divinity is rootless duckweed and cannot be regenerated. On the contrary, the power of God Angslem has a foundation and can flow constantly increasing. It can't go on like this. I have touched the taboo of life and death in this world, and I have been targeted by God Angslem, but passive resistance is not good for me. God Angslem must be seriously injured, otherwise I will not be able to stay in this world. The task of the system is to become the #1 magician in this world. I need time. Thinking silently in his heart, Fischer took the initiative to take over the broken divinity. In an instant, the broken divinity erupted with even more terrifying power, directly breaking through the black magic power, and completely destroying the black magic power, and then turned into a thunderbolt that soared into the sky and submerged into the void air force. After a while, a muffled hum came from the void. Then, a 1.9-weak broken divinity appeared from the void, and quickly sank into Fischer's body. The shattered divinity that consumed 9 levels temporarily severely injured God Angslem, enough to stop this guy temporarily. During this period of time, God Angslem should not come to harass me again, and I can learn to practice magic with peace of mind. However, the price is really huge. Fischer couldn't help sighing as he watched the originally huge ocean of divinity in his mind turn into a lake. Who are you? Just as Fischer sighed, a childish voice came from behind him. Huh? Did you come back to life? Fischer was not surprised at all, and turned to look over. The child with cherry hair was showing a pair of Kazillan's big eyes and looking at him cutely. Chapter 232, Jeff's Thoughts. Nasdranil, although he was resurrected, but this guy's memory has completely disappeared. The reason for this is the sequel left by Jeff, who did research on Naz's body in order to revive him. This situation is no different from when he was transformed into an ant by Jeref. Fischer murmured softly as he looked at the little Natsu who was having fun in the yard with a flame in his hand. Nasdranil, this guy lost his memory after being resurrected with his own natural teeth. Neither Fischer nor Jeref knew the reason for this, and they could only deduce it as a sequel caused by Jeref's experiments on Naz in order to revive him. And the current appearance of Natsu is similar to the situation in the original book when Jeff transformed Natsu into the strongest demon end. However, I didn't expect Onin to be so fragile in his heart. He almost sank because of the appearance of Angslem. Speaking of Jeff, Fischer was speechless. If I hadn't noticed it in time and slapped Jeff to wake him up, this guy would be blackened and sink into the abyss. Having already regarded Jeff as his friend, Fischer would naturally not let this happen to Jeff. The reason why Natsu was resurrected was also to deal with the situation on Jeff. Xiaohu Naz will attract the attention of Angslem God, and will be cursed because he touched the taboo of life and death. Of course Fischer knows this, but Fischer did it anyway, just because Fischer wanted to see if he could get rid of the curse of contradiction on Jeref. He wants to use the broken divinity in his body to deal with Angslem God. As a result, not only was he unable to deal with the God Angslem, leaving only such a broken divinity, but it almost did not help, making Jeref almost blackened and sinking. How does this make Fischer accept? However, although Jeref was woken up by the fan, Jeref dare not appear casually by Fischer's side now, because Natsu is under the care of Fischer now. As soon as he saw Natsu, Jeref was afraid that his emotions would change, which would trigger a death hunt. So Jeref only shows up when Natsu isn't by Fischer's side. At first, I thought about whether I could use my divinity to lift the curse of the conflict in the mountains of Jeref. But now it's gone. The broken divinity in my body is too little now, and the curse of contradiction cannot be erased at all. I can only say sorry to Jeff. With a slight sigh, Fischer felt a little melancholy. Fischer didn't care about the weakening of the broken divinity in his body. Fischer just sighed that he couldn't lift the curse for Jeff. Being Fischer's friends is no different from being Fischer's family members. You can enjoy the treatment that only family members can have. As for the attitude towards family members, Fischer's performance in the world of HunterxHunter will tell. So even after knowing about the broken divinity, Fischer has no regrets about it. Hey, Fischer, I've learned fire magic. When Fischer was melancholy, the short-legged Natsu ran over with a flame in his hand and a bright smile on his face, begging for praise from Fischer. Well, it's amazing. Natsu did a great job. Fischer changed his previous melancholy and said with a slight smile. How should I describe the character of Naz? Fischer likes this kid. After all, everyone likes children. Moreover, this kid really has full potential in magic. It took only half a day to learn fire magic. It's no wonder that in the original book, Jeref transformed him into the flame demon end, because this kid is really talented in this flame magic. Hey, the smile on Natsu's face became brighter. Okay, let's go play. I have something to do. Rubbing Natsu's cherry hair, Fischer sent Naz out of here. Yeah, goodbye, brother Fischer. Natsu nodded, ran away excitedly, and quickly disappeared from Fischer's sight. Come out, Fischer called into the air not long after Natsu left. As soon as the words fell, space ripples appeared on Fischer's left, and then Jeref walked out of the ripples. As soon as he appeared, Jeref stared at the direction Natsu was leaving with a sad expression on his face. Regarding this, Fischer did not speak, and sat quietly. After a while, Jeref looked back. Fischer, tell me, if Natsu can have your level of power, don't you need to be afraid of the power of Death Hunt? Jeref looked at Fischer and asked Fischer in a questioning tone. Huh? Hearing what Jeref said, Fischer was taken aback for a moment, then frowned and said, what do you want to do? Naz's talent is good, but it's only good. It will take at least a few decades to reach your level of 503. It's just too long for that long. That's why I want to help him acquire strength strong enough to resist death hunting in the shortest possible time. Jeref did not hide anything, and expressed his thoughts. Fischer, in the next half-month, I will give you a solid foundation in magic, and I may not be able to spare time to teach you magic after that. Your desire to become the first person in magic needs to be realized by yourself. I'm sorry, Fischer. After stating his purpose, Jeref continued without waiting for Fischer to speak. After finishing speaking, space ripples appeared around Jeref's body again, and he turned and left the bottle. Let Natsu master the power enough to rival Death Hunt in a short period of time? What is this guy thinking? How could such a thing be done? Even if it's hunting dragons, taking out the magic crystal and making Natsu the second-generation dragon slayer, it won't be possible. Looking at where Jeref left, Fischer revealed a pensive expression. However, at the next moment, there was a flash of inspiration in Fischer's mind. Could it be a devil? Chapter 233, The Unknown Future and Outside Visitors. Although he guessed the way to quickly gain powerful power that Jeref said, Fischer didn't care. For the next half a month, besides taking care of Natsu, Fischer followed Jeref to learn the basics of magic. Again, with the teaching of Jeref, the most talented and powerful mage in the fairy tale world, coupled with Fischer's own situation, Fischer has easily mastered the magic foundation of this world. On the 10th day, the teaching was over. It was also that day that Jeref left the Myldian Academy of Magic and embarked on a journey to explore ruins around the world. Jeref said that he wanted to obtain more magical knowledge and more ultra-ancient documents from these super-ancient relics for research. In this regard, Fischer did not block. To be honest, Fischer is very interested in what Jeref said. After getting a general understanding of the library of the Myldian Academy of Magic, Fischer knew that there are not many powerful magics in the Myldian Academy of Magic, but more knowledge documents. And there are not many magics related to ultra-ancient times. Just like those lost magic, god-killing magic, super-ancient magic and so on, an Academy of Magic doesn't have any. Fischer also knows where the magic knowledge that Jeref in the original book can support a magical country comes from, all brought out by Jeref from various ancient ruins. According to this situation, Jeref is the same kind as the fat man in a fantasy novel. One is constantly robbing tombs in order to find his brother, while the other is constantly exploring various ancient ruins in order to resurrect his brother and live with him. However, interest is interest. But Fischer did not leave with Jeref, because the Magic Fischer of Myldian Magic Academy doesn't have all the academies, and there is still Naz, the oil bottle. Both factors prevented Fischer from entering those ancient ruins with Jeref. However, it makes no difference whether you enter those ancient ruins or not, because as long as Fischer wants, Jeref will have it. In this regard, Sil is very confident. Fischer's attitude towards Jeref is very clear, and the two have always been friends. The change in Jeref came from the curse of the god Anxlem, which was originally told by Fischer to Jeref. And half a month ago, Fischer resurrected his younger brother knowing that touching the taboo of life and death would be watched by the god Anxlem and cursed. Saying this may have a feeling of repaying favors, but it is not. Jeref's character is gracious, and Fischer wants some magic, and it's impossible to say number. After all, before Fischer touched the taboo of life and death, the relationship between Jeref and Fischer was very close. Whatever Fischer needs, Jeref will do it. After that, the friendship between the two became more profound. It's just some magic, and it's impossible to refuse. Brother Fischer, is he really my real brother? Vertical bar? Standing at the gate of the academy, holding Fischer's hand, Naz looked up at the back of Jeref, who was gradually going away, and asked Fischer, "Ah, your own brother, Jeref Draniel." Fischer nodded lightly. "Then why doesn't brother want to see me?" Naz was very puzzled when he heard this, and asked out the questions he had accumulated in his heart for the past half-month. "It's not that Jeref doesn't want to see you, but he can't see you because it will bring you danger," Fischer explained. "Really?" Natsu half understood. "Ah, if your strength is as strong as mine, Jeref won't avoid you." Fischer nodded slightly, and then said gently, "That's it. I see, brother Fischer. I will work hard to improve my strength. Because you become as strong as brother Fischer, you can be with brother at that time." Naz nodded, looked at Fischer, clenched his small fist, nodded firmly, and promised. "Well, work hard," Fischer gently encouraged. He also really wanted to know where Natsu would go in the future without becoming the demon of flame. Natsu Draniel. Holding little Natsu's hand, Fischer returned to the empty Mildian Academy of Magic, went to the library, and continued to learn magic. And little Nas went to practice magic by himself. At the same time, the changes of Mildian Academy of Magic and the fall of the Thunder Dragon also spread throughout the entire continent with the passage of time. In this era, magic was not prosperous, and the settlements among humans were very scattered, especially Mildian Academy of Magic is extremely remote. On the fourth day after Fischer killed the Thunder Dragon, the residents of that small town came to Mildian Academy of Magic. What happened at Mildian Academy of Magic is also known to the residents of the town. However, they were unable to meet Fischer and Jeref, and failed to get the promise of blessing from Fischer. The helpless town residents had no choice but to return to the town. Then, with the passage of time, the news of the fall of the Mildian School of Magic and the Thunder Dragon gradually spread with the movements of the merchants and residents. For more than half a month, the entire continent, large and small, knew what happened at Mildian Academy of Magic. On the third day after Fischer retreated to practice magic after Jeref left, an outsider appeared again at the Mildian Academy of Magic. No, there is also Dragon Shadow. A ferocious dragon brought a human to the square of Mildian Academy of Magic, setting off a gust of wind. Afterwards, the humans on the dragon's back jumped down from above and began to look around. Vertical bar. Sure enough, as the information said, all the mages of Mildian Academy of Magic are dead. After the crimson figure sized it up, he said out loud, "No, not all of them are dead, and there is still the breath of human beings. It should be the person we are looking for." "Who are you?" At this moment, an immature child's voice came into the ears of the two, and their eyes were immediately attracted. I saw a cherry-haired child with bare arms looking at them suspiciously. Chapter 234 Queen of Dragons, Creator of Dragon Slayer Magic. Children. Seeing Natsu appearing suddenly, both dragons and humans showed surprise. "Who are you, and what are you doing here?" Seeing that the dragon and the people ignored him, Natsu suddenly showed a dissatisfied expression, put his hands on his hips, and asked again angrily. Interesting, a child is not afraid of meeting this old man. After seeing Natsu's reaction, the giant dragon immediately became interested in Natsu. Not to mention normal human beings among humans, even those mages who have never seen themselves, the first time they see themselves is a reaction of fear. Let alone a small child. Only those residents of the Doragunov kingdom who are used to seeing the pro-friendly dragons will not have this kind of reaction. "Ah, giant dragon, you are a dragon." As the giant dragon spoke again, Natsu seemed to react, and exaggeratedly shouted out with his eyes wide open and pointing at the giant dragon. Seeing Natsu's belated reaction, both the dragon and the humans who came together were speechless. Well, let's just say that in this era, how can children not be afraid of giant dragons? It turned out that Natsu's reflex arc was too big. However, the next moment, the pupils of a giant dragon and a human being constricted simultaneously, because beside Naz, a figure appeared without any warning. If this is the case, it is not enough to make one person and one dragon lose their composure. The reason why the two lost their composure was entirely because of the sense of crisis brought to them by the sudden appearance of 820. A sense of crisis. Bessarion has been in this world for hundreds of years, and he has never felt a sense of crisis from a human being. From birth to now, he has only felt the crisis from his own kind, and this is the first time he has felt a sense of crisis from a human being. It seems that the rumors are not groundless. There are indeed people of the same kind who perished because of human beings, Bessarion said solemnly in his heart. They came here for two purposes, one of which was to confirm the authenticity of the rumors. It now appears that this rumor has been confirmed. Sorry, my child was rude. However, I didn't expect guests to come to such a remote place. Standing beside Naz, Fischer stroked Naz's hair and apologized to the 10 people and 10 dragons in front of him. Brother Fischer? The old man didn't expect that there would be a powerhouse of your level here. No, it should be said that there is an existence of your level among human beings. I'm really shocked. The huge dragon's mouth opened and closed, and the dragon named Bessarion was deeply moved. I also didn't expect that the princess and guardian dragon of the kingdom of Doragunov would come to my, remote academy. My lord, do you know us? Hearing Fischer's words, the woman standing beside the dragon suddenly became excited and said. The person who appeared in front of Fischer was none other than the future queen of dragons, the queen of the Doragunov kingdom, the first dragon slayer, and the mother of dragon slayers, Irene Bessarion. Of course, judging from her current reaction, Irene Bessarion has not yet created a high-level additional magic that can attach dragon moves to humans, nor has she inherited Bessarion's surname, and she is just an ordinary queen. After being confirmed by her guardian dragon Bessarion, Irene seemed very excited because this means that human beings are no longer ants, and human beings have existences that can compete with giant dragons. I know. Fischer nodded slightly, and then asked the purpose of the two. Hey, what is the purpose of you two coming here? Yes, my lord. Irene's visit this time is to invite Sir to be the general of the Doragunov kingdom, and to fight against the dragon of the Slaughter faction together. Irene put one hand on her chest, bowed slightly, and her tone was extremely respectful. Well, What is your purpose? Then I can only say sorry, because I don't have time to care about those dragons now. I still have my own things to do here. Hearing Irene's request, Fischer was slightly surprised, and then rejected Irene's request. 400 years ago, the Dragon Clan was very powerful, and the number of giant dragons of the Slaughter faction was too large compared to the giant dragons of the Affinity faction. Even Fischer has great strength and the dragons of the Affectionate faction cannot fight against the dragons of the Killing faction. So Fischer doesn't want to get involved in the battle between dragons and humans for the time being. Of course, only temporarily. When Fischer has learned all the magic here, Fischer will also leave the Mildian School of Magic and walk on the mainland, looking for more magic. Of course, the magic Fischer on Jeff will not let it go. The wool is the wool, but Fischer himself can't just hope to get it from Jeff. I also need to go to various ruins to find them. At that time, there will definitely be conflicts with those giant dragons. At that time, even if Fischer doesn't want to do anything to the dragon, he will definitely not be able to stay out of it. Of course, it is estimated that the Dragon Slayer wizard will also appear at that time, and Fischer will not fight alone with the dragon. Of course, at that time, it is estimated that even if he fights alone, Fischer will not be afraid of the Dragon Clan. After all, Fischer's strength is not constant. Fischer will grow, and grow very fast. Fischer estimates that it will take a year to learn all the magic of the Mildian Academy of Magic. In 1 year, it is self-evident with Fischer's growth rate. However, it is not necessary now. Fischer still wants to learn all the magic of the Mildian Academy of Magic. Then, my lord, forgive me, can I ask my lord how you have such a powerful power? Hearing that Fischer rejected her without even thinking about it, Irene was slightly startled, a little disappointed, but quickly cheered up, and asked for advice with a solemn expression. You're really welcome. Fischer raised his eyebrows slightly, looking at her with a strange look on his face. I'm very sorry, I know it's wrong to inquire about this kind of thing, but there is really nothing I can do. Recently, the giant dragon of the Slaughter faction has become more and more irritable, and they often attack. If we humans can't master the powerful power to fight with Basirian and the others and deal with them, then the human race is likely to become extinct. I don't want this kind of thing to happen, so I don't want to give up when I encounter a little bit of hope. Hearing Fischer's words, Irene's expression became sad. Haven't you thought about letting humans master the magic of dragons? Fischer was a little surprised by Irene's words, and couldn't help but say, it stands to reason that attaching the power of the dragon to humans should be something Irene has been thinking about and preparing for. Otherwise she would not have created such a powerful magic as high-level additional magic. Let humans master the magic of dragons? Irene was stunned. Even Basirian was stunned. Fischer was also stunned when he saw one man and one dragon. What's the meaning? Neither of you have ever thought of such a thing? Thank you very much, my lord. Thank you, strong human. Fischer. In other words, I became one of the creators of Dragon Slayer magic. Chapter 235 Creating Magic, Fischer's Magic Aptitude. It's outrageous. I've only traveled here for half a month. Even if the butterfly effect happens, it's impossible to affect the past. Why did things develop to this point? Also, why was there only one magic academy in Midian 400 years ago? In the library, Fischer rubbed his chin, looking at Irene who was looking at documents, with a look of disbelief. Irene had no intention of creating a dragon slayer before. What made Fischer even more unbelievable was what Irene said, that the only magic academy on this continent is the Mildian Academy of Magic. No, it should be said that Mildian Academy of Magic is a magic academy with the most complete heritage. There are still other small magic schools. It's just that those magic schools can only learn magic, but can't create magic, and they don't have that background. But Mildian Academy of Magic is different. There are a lot of magic literature and materials here, and there are enough foundations. Here, as long as the talented wizards have a heart, they can create all kinds of magic based on various magic knowledge. While other small schools of magic taught a man to fish, Mildian School of Magic taught a man to fish. It's a pity that many of the pioneering wizards of this academy were taken over by Jeff half a month ago. As for Irene, this guy stayed at Mildian Academy of Magic after getting the idea of a dragon slayer from Fischer. He plunged headlong into the library of the Magic Academy to browse various magic documents, absorb all kinds of magic knowledge, and wanted to create magic that would allow humans to obtain the power of dragons. However, you should prepare your own food anyway. Holding the food in the other hand, Fischer came to the side of Irene who had forgotten to eat and sleep, put the food in front of her, and said helplessly, "This guy has rarely left here since the beginning, and it has been 10 days. Sometimes I didn't even leave for a day, just sat there reading literature, didn't even eat, and lay down on the table to rest when I was tired. The highest record is not leaving the library for 2 days. Of course, there are also various facilities in the library." Fischer couldn't stand it anymore, so he had to bring this guy along with the meal when he brought Naz. "Thank you, Fischer." Irene, who was reading a book, noticed the lunchbox that suddenly appeared in front of her, and reacted, raised her head, and thanked Fischer with a smile. After a few days of getting along, Irene also got to know Fischer a lot better, and she no longer speaks honorifics, and can communicate in ordinary ways. I know you want to create magic that allows humans to master the power of dragons as soon as possible, but at least pay attention to your physical condition. Don't create magic, but your body collapses, so the loss outweighs the gain. Fischer reminded kindly, and then walked away, went to the bookcase around the wall to look for books. Of course, the books Fischer was looking for were magic books. Books that recorded various magic practices, not magic literature. Fischer's goal now is to learn all the magic of the Mildian Academy of Magic. As for creating magic himself, Fischer has not considered it for the time being. Wait until there is no magic to learn. Moreover, that guy Jeff went out this time, and he would definitely bring back new magic when he came back. This Fischer is very confident in Jeff. Speaking of which, Jeff in the original book created a lot of magic and made a lot of contributions to the magic world. If it weren't for this guy's curse of contradiction, it wouldn't be an exaggeration for this guy to be the #1 in the demonic Tao. Fischer is looking forward to what kind of magic this guy will get when he goes out this time, and what kind of magic he will create. To put it another way, Fischer regards Jeff as a tool man, laughs. Soon, Fischer took a few magic books, sat opposite to Irene, and began to read. The two were relatively silent, quietly browsing their books. At a certain moment, Irene, holding a panel in her hand, looked up slightly at Fischer. Because at this time, Fischer was flipping through the book with one hand, while unconsciously releasing magic with the other hand. Needless to say, this is magic Fischer is learning. In the past 10 days, Irene has watched this scene countless times. I see a dozen of them every day. It's all the magic in the magic books that Fischer has read more and more. This situation made Irene very aware of how terrifying Fischer's talent is. What kind of talent is it to learn more than a dozen kinds of magic in one day? It would be great if Fischer could help. Looking at Fischer, who was reading and unconsciously releasing the auxiliary magic she had learned, Irene murmured inwardly. Irene is very sure that if Fischer can help develop the magic that allows people to master the power of dragons, then with their own qualifications, the two of them will definitely get twice the result with half the effort. No, 5 times or even 10 times the result may be possible. In fact, Irene's thoughts are very real. If Fischer also develops high-level additional magic together, then the time will definitely be shortened to the extreme. Because Fischer's aptitude in magic is really strong, second only to Jeff in this world. 0. Even Irene, the Queen of Dragons who created high-level additional magic, can't compare. After Jeref helped Fischer complete the basics of magic, so could be said to be flawless in magic practice. In addition, the ability to increase tenfold exists. Creating magic is something Fischer can really do, and it can be said to be a piece of cake. Even for high-level additional magic, Fischer can create it now as long as he has the heart, but it will take some time to verify it. It's just that Fischer is too lazy to develop it for the time being. After all, there is Jeref, the tool man. Why are you looking at me? Irene's gaze caught Fischer's mind, and Fischer stopped reading, looking up and asking suspiciously. I want to ask you to help develop magic together, Irene blurted out while watching Fischer in a daze. 0. Hearing Irene's words, Fischer blinked, a little surprised. Immediately, Fischer turned his eyes back to the book again, without raising his head, and asked again, why are you looking for me? I should say, I'm learning magic now, and I don't have time to create magic. Because your talent is very strong. With your help, the time to create magic will be shortened a lot. Human beings can also fight against the giant dragon of the Slaughter faction as soon as possible, and Bessarion and the others don't have to work hard to support them. Irene replied without hesitation. Now that I have said it, let's directly point it out. This is her dream and her motivation. She has always known that the reason why the human side was not destroyed was entirely due to the help of Bessarion and the dragons of the Affinity faction. However, the number of dragons of the Affinity faction is scarce, and it is very difficult to fight against the dragons of the Killing faction. So he has always wanted to help Bessarion, and he also wanted to allow humans to master the power to fight against the dragons. This method is urgent, and if more time is wasted, tens of thousands of innocent people will lose their lives and leave this world because of the destruction of the giant dragon of the Slaughter faction. She doesn't want this to keep happening. Hearing Irene's words, Fischer was about to say something, but he suddenly paused, and immediately changed what he was about to say. Yes, I promise you. However, I also have a request. Whatever request, as long as it is not too much, I can agree to you. Hearing that Fischer actually agreed, Irene was extremely excited and blurted out, become my family. Chapter 236, The New Dependent, The Imaginative Irene. For Irene's request, Fischer wanted to refuse. Because he is not from this world, except for Jeff and Naz, other Fischers don't care about everything in this world. The battle between humans and dragons Fischer also does not want to participate in. But, it occurred to Fischer, if Irene can be turned into his own subordinate, then he has a great chance to obtain additional magic from Irene. Even if Irene hasn't learned it yet, the future Irene will know this magic, and it's very powerful. As long as Irene becomes his subordinate, even Irene's abilities in the future, he has a chance to obtain it. It depends on whether his face is white or not. Throughout Irene's life, there are only 2 kinds of magic, One is high-level additional magic, the other is Holy Dragon Slayer magic, and the rest are derived from additional magic. Only a few of them are not 030. So there's a good chance Fischer will be able to get additional magic. Of course, if Irene's various living abilities are counted, then Fischer didn't say anything. However, judging from Irene's status as the queen of the Doragunov kingdom, Irene should not have many life skills, or not at all. As for whether Irene's qualifications can meet the system's standards, Fischer is not worried at all. After all, she is the Queen of Dragons, Scarlet Despair, one of the twin walls of the future Alvarez Empire. If you can't pass the qualification, who will believe it? And what made Fischer think of this was the system. It was because of the system that Fischer suddenly thought of the idea of recruiting family members in this world, and set his goal on Irene. Fischer hadn't had this idea before. In this world, Fischer is ready to complete the system's check-in tasks as quickly as possible, and doesn't want to get involved in too many things. Naturally, Fischer didn't want to agree to Irene's request. However, just now, when Irene requested Fischer, the system suddenly appeared, triggering the sign-in. The check-in appeared, and there was no other delay, so Fischer naturally checked in. It is conceivable that the system likes to play with this kind of people. Check in this time, and Fischer gets another mission. Task name: Father of a Dragon Slayer Mage. Task introduction: ask the host to use additional magic to create the first generation of Dragon Slayer wizards. Mission reward: 3 fairy magics. This is the check-in task for Fischer. Check-in. The requirement of the task was to let Fischer use additional magic to create the first generation of Dragon Slayers, so Fischer thought of Irene. Adding magic is fine. After completing his magic foundation, Fischer knows how terrifying his aptitude in magic is. It is easy for Fischer to create additional magic, but it takes time to practice it to a high level. Additional magic is nothing, even if it doesn't need to be obtained from Irene, Fischer can create it. The difficulty is the Dragon Slayer magic. The birth of dragon-slaying magic requires the cooperation of the dragon clan. The ability to add magic is to attach the dragon's magic moves to human beings, and it is impossible to complete without the cooperation of the dragon. Once the dragon clan is unwilling, then everything will be futile. So, only with this level of relationship can this tasks be accomplished. Fischer is very interested in the 3 major magics of goblins, and the level of interest is at the same level as that of additional magic. And after Fischer explained it carefully to Irene, Irene agreed without any hesitation. As long as the current situation can be changed, she is willing to do anything. Sitting on the ground with blushing cheeks, Irene folded her hands on her chest, exposing her fair back. Fischer's blood-stained fingers carved grace on its back. Fischer, is the favor you mentioned really so miraculous? Feeling the touch on her back, Irene said shyly. As the queen of the country, it was the first time for her to be touched on her back by a man. This needs to be felt by yourself in the future. My words cannot clearly express the main function of grace, Fischer replied with a gentle smile. As the voice fell, Fischer's fingers also stopped, and the faint blue light illuminated the area where the two were located, and a system voice sounded in Fischer's mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for getting a new faction member and getting a sign-in reward once. May I ask the host if you want to sign in? Ding! Congratulations to the host for getting the power-on feedback from the power member Irene. The host has obtained the ultimate additional magic. It seems that I'm lucky. Hearing the system's prompt, Fischer smiled, and then Fischer said again, System, sign in. Ding! The sign-in is successful. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Heart of the Goblin, Irene's special version. Blinking, Shell was startled by the sign-in reward this time. Unexpectedly, the ability of infinite magic power came out. This is matched with Irene, and with Irene's aptitude, it is impossible for gods to block and kill gods, and Buddhas to block and kill Buddhas. Fischer, now you can work with me to develop magic that allows humans to master the power of dragons. Irene also felt it after engraving Enhui, and urged her eagerly after finishing her clothes, and did not feel Enhui. There's no rush. I'll give you something nice first. Being urged by Irene, Fischer also set his eyes on Irene, blinked, and then said, Nice one? Well, good stuff. Fischer nodded, and then pointed to Irene's forehead with fingers that gathered golden light. Irene immediately stood there in a daze. After a while, Irene came back to her senses with a look of shock on her face. Fischer, me, is it really good to give me this kind of thing? Irene said in a panic. She already knew the preciousness of what Fischer gave her just now, so she was very shocked. Such a precious thing. Fischer actually gave it to himself. This is the benefit of being my family member. Don't think too much, just improve your magic in the future. Fischer waved his hand casually, and said in an unquestionable tone, This guy's luck is really good, and he actually got this thing. Infinite Magic Power 1.0. This means that as long as Irene will never have to worry about running out of magic power in the future. Yes, I will definitely live up to your expectations, Fischer, and I will practice magic well. Hearing this, Irene quickly promised her promise. While speaking, the double poles that had just faded were covered with blush again. Fischer actually gave me such a valuable thing. Could it be? If it is true, should I agree? Fischer is really nice and gentle. Irene, who was just beginning to fall in love, began to imagine some things in her mind, and her cheeks became more and more flushed. It was not until Fischer's voice came again that Irene's brainstorming was interrupted. "Irene, let's go. I will teach you the method of attachment." Yes. Additional magic? Well, additional magic. Magic that adds the power of dragons to humans. Chapter 237, Arriving at the Doragunov Kingdom. Basirian, you gathered us here. Did the method you mentioned before succeed? In the huge castle, in the atrium, several giant dragons of different shapes gathered here, and Basirian was also there. Among them, one of the pure white dragons asked Basili. "Well, Irene sent me a letter just now, and she has created a magic that can allow humans to master the power of our dragon race. According to the plan discussed before, it's okay." Basirian opened his mouth slightly and made his own voice. "Let's do it this way. If there is no other power to join us, we will not be able to fight against those guys with our current power." A blue-skinned, hideous dragon opened his mouth and agreed. Let's do that. It would be a good thing if humans could fight alongside us." "Where is Irene now?" Many dragons agreed and asked where Irene was now. "Well," Eileen said, "she's on her way back now." "Fischer, why don't you let me become the Dragon Slayer Demon 09 guide?" High above the sky, Fischer, Irene, and Naz sat on the Dragon Star group, flying towards a certain direction, and AI sitting next to Fischer Lin asked suspiciously. She has learned additional magic from Fischer. However, just learned it. It is still impossible to attach the power of the dragon to the human body. So Irene asked Fischer for help, and went to the kingdom of Doragunov to add dragon power to the soldiers in the country. After all, time is not waiting for me. When she mastered the additional magic enough to be able to attach the power of the dragon, the daylily was called because the current situation is very tense. However, Fischer told Irene that Irene would not be given the power of a dragon, nor would Irene be given a dragon's calendar. This made Eileen very puzzled. "This is advice, but I won't force you." Fischer shook his head lightly, and didn't want to explain too much. Fischer knew that with Irene's status as the queen of the Doragunov kingdom, it was inevitable to take the lead. The chances of becoming a dragon slayer are very high. However, the final result of Irene who became a dragon slayer was very bad. He created the dragon slayer, but in the end he was persecuted and driven away by the human beings he saved. He was held in the dungeon for 3 years and was even sentenced. All this made Fischer dislike the humans of this era. Fischer never speculates about human nature. Fischer has no feeling for the humans of this era, and even hates them, which is one of the reasons why Fischer doesn't want to deal with the dragons. Without him, Fischer does not want to save these ugly human beings of this era. Of course, such people exist in every era, and it is impossible to eliminate them. However, there is a world of difference between knowing and not knowing. If you don't know, Fischer will treat it as if such a thing never existed. But, now that he knew it, Fischer couldn't ignore it. This time Fischer will agree to come to Irene to come here to make dragon slayers for the soldiers of the Doragunov kingdom. It is nothing more than a system task. Otherwise, even if Irene asked, Fischer would not come over. Advice? Irene frowned, still puzzled and lost in thought. Fischer didn't continue talking either. As for Naz, this guy is extremely excited at this time, jumping on the Dragon Star group very actively, and has begun to show signs of transforming into a brat. In this regard, Fischer is also a little speechless. I always feel that this guy Naz is so natural. It was only because he didn't have any memory before that he was so well behaved. After getting along for so long now, this guy gradually let go of his nature and gradually turned into a brat. Fischer didn't care about this guy's bear. Anyway, he can't fall, so he can jump as much as he wants. Following the direction pointed by Irene, the master spent an hour and finally arrived at Doragunov Kingdom. Well, this is the kingdom where dragons and humans coexist. The Doragunov Kingdom. There are indeed several strong auras, and they are dragons. Hovering above the sky, Fischer looked at the huge city-state below, and murmured calmly, "Hey, this is the kingdom of Doragunov, the only country in Ishgar that is blessed by the dragon clan of the Amigo faction." Fischer. Irene nodded and introduced. As soon as the words fell, several huge voices flew out from the huge castle in the city-state below, flying up towards Fischer. There are several giant dragons of different shapes, and the leader is the one who met more than 10 days ago. Basirian, the guardian virtuous dragon of the Doragunov kingdom. Sure enough, such a powerful aura, it is worthy of being a human being who can kill a dragon. Is this aura killing the giant dragon of the Thunder system? It's very powerful, and its aura is comparable to that of a series of dragon kings. Human, you are very good. After appearing around the Dragon Star group, several giant dragons began to chatter. Welcome to the kingdom of Doragunov, Your Excellency Fischer. The wise dragon Basirian was the last to speak, and greeted Fischer. Yeah. Fischer nodded slightly. Please follow me, Your Excellency Fischer. After greeting each other, Basirian spoke again, then turned around and flapped his wings and flew down. Seeing this, Fischer hugged Irene directly, and stretched out his hand to capture Natsu, who was excited by the appearance of the giant dragons not far away, and then released the Dragon Star group and flew down behind Basirian. Suddenly embraced by Fischer, Irene blushed again, but she didn't struggle, and buried her face in Fischer's arms. But Natsu, who was next to Irene, started yelling, and even though he was hugged by Fischer, His eyes did not leave the dragons and sparkled. After seeing Fischer's actions, several giant dragons all showed surprise. Can humans actually fly? With such a surprise in mind, several giant dragons surrounded Fischer, guarding Fischer in the middle, and escorting Fischer to fly down towards the castle. It can be said that as a giant dragon, the behavior of these giant dragons is very commendable, because they have made such a gift for a human being. It also gave Fischer some kind of affection for the dragons. You must know that even the giant dragons of the Affinity faction have their own dignity. This kind of welcoming method that protects human beings is simply impossible to appear. However, this situation is indeed happening now. Chapter 238, The Birth of the Dragon Slayer. In the castle atrium, Fischer and others and the dragon landed here. At this time, hundreds of energetic soldiers had already gathered here. After seeing the appearance of Fischer and Irene, these soldiers immediately cast their gazes over, each with a look of expectation. Obviously, these soldiers all knew about the existence of the Dragon Slayer from Bessarion, and their group of soldiers who were summoned is the candidates who are about to become Dragon Slayer wizards. I will fight with the wise dragon Bessarion in the future. This is an extremely special honor and an indescribable responsibility for them. Are these the candidates for Dragon Slayer? Fischer asked, looking at these energetic soldiers. These are the elite soldiers I asked Bessarion to pick, and they all know what's going on. I'll leave it to you, Fischer. Leaving from Fischer's arms, Irene looked at Fischer firmly. Please. After hearing Irene's introduction, many soldiers withdrew their expectant gazes and became extremely determined. Well, that's fine. Fischer nodded slightly, but didn't say much. For these soldiers, Fischer has a slight fondness for them. Because Fischer had told Irene about the hidden danger of the Dragon Slayer, presumably Irene had also told Bessarion. And with Bessarion's character known as a virtuous dragon, he must not hide these soldiers. As for the hidden dangers of the Dragon Slayer, apart from Irene, the Queen of Dragons and Akunologia's transformation of the dragon, the rest are all due to the rejection of the human body by the Dragon Slayer magic and died of various sequelae. In other words, these soldiers knew that they might die for this reason, but they still chose to become Dragon Slayers. In this regard, these soldiers are very similar to those soldiers in Fischer's previous life. Go ahead to dangers. Knowing that he would die, he still died generously for his compatriots. It is 100 times, 1,000 times stronger than those guys who only deal with heroes. However, Sil wouldn't just interact with them just because he had a slight liking for them. Turning his head to look at the several giant dragons around him, Fischer said calmly, I think Irene has already explained the effect of the additional magic to you. Next, I need you to cooperate with me, and this cooperation must let go of all your vigilance, so that I can pull out your magic and attach it to them. Which of you can do it? Hearing the words, several giant dragons looked at each other, and then nodded their ferocious heads in unison. They had already discussed it before, and they also knew the conditions for adding magic. They all agreed, and now they will naturally not go back on their promises. Okay, let's get started then. Let's start with Bessarion first. Fischer nodded lightly, then walked to Bessarion's side, stretched out his hand to press Bessarion's body, and then, Fischer looked at the many soldiers. What about you? Who will come first? I'll go first. Before the soldiers could respond, Irene, the queen, volunteered to stand up and looked at Fischer firmly. Fischer took a deep look at Irene, didn't say much, and stretched out his hand empty-handed. Seeing this, Irene hurried over and let Fischer's hand rest on her forehead. Crimson light emerged from Fischer's body, spreading along his hands, covering Bessarion and Irene. The next moment, a huge magic circle appeared above Bessarion. This is? Everyone was attracted. Additional magic. My power has been pulled out. No, it seems to have been pulled out by copying a source of power. Bessarion felt the changes in his body, and said lightly, is this additional magic? Copy my power, and then attach it to humans, so that humans can master the power of our dragons. This is Dragon Slayer. 11. The principle is like this. It's not a problem if you just copy it. However, it is not a good thing to master the power of a dragon with a human body. Humans are weak in physique. If they master the power of dragons, they can indeed become stronger. But I'm afraid that the origin of human beings will not be able to master our power. However, this is what you know. These children are willing to become dragon slayers after knowing the consequences. They will not regret it. After stopping Bessarion's feelings, several dragons communicated again up. Both the dragon and the soldiers watched Fischer as the two of them, witnessing the birth of the first dragon slayer. Soon, more than 10 seconds passed, and the light on the 2-in-1 dragon slowly disappeared. The next moment, powerful magic power erupted from Irene's body, and white light appeared on Irene's hands. Note, the goblin's heart has infinite magic power, but it does not mean that the magic power is strong, but the consumed magic power will be replenished instantly. It can use magic continuously. Whether the goblin's heart is strong or not depends on the user. Irene's current magic power, it's not powerful, but its aptitude is very strong, and if you follow the steps step by step, you will definitely become a top powerhouse. The twin jades of the Empire, and the Scarlet Despair. Vertical bar. This is the strength of the old man. It seems to be a success. Looking at the magical power wrapped around Irene's hands, Basirian opened his mouth slightly and made a sound. When the surrounding soldiers heard the words, they immediately cheered and jumped for joy, because this means that they will also become Dragon Slayer wizards in the future, and they will fight against the dragons of the Killing faction together with many dragons. Indeed, it appears to be a success. Your Excellency Fischer, please continue. Let these people master our strength, and then we will train them as soon as possible, and let them master our moves. Your Excellency Fischer, please. The dragons also opened their mouths. However, Fischer ignored them, but looked at Irene silently for a long time, and then spoke. I hope you won't regret it in the future, Irene. Ding. The mission is complete. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the 3 magic spells of the Goblin. Chapter 239, Natsu left behind. Your Excellency Fischer, why don't you want to fight for human beings? On the huge castle, Fischer and Basirian sat on the highest point, one person and one dragon, watching the dozens of giant dragons teaching the newborn dragon slayers below. Basirian asked Fischer puzzledly. Irene couldn't see it, but Basirian, a giant dragon that had lived for hundreds of years, could. Fischer doesn't have a good impression of humans and seems to be disgusted. Humans hate humans? What is this operation? It's just that I don't want to test the sinisterness of human nature, Fischer said lightly. Even so, Fischer looked down at Irene, who was working hard to learn dragon-slaying magic, with extremely complicated eyes. Forget it before, Irene is Irene, but now, Irene is already his dependent. It is naturally impossible for Fischer to allow Irene to have that kind of future. However, Fischer will not stop Irene, but let Irene act according to her own ideas. Just like his younger brother Killua in the world of Hunter. Is it human? Human nature is indeed a very vivid image. Human beings are indeed very terrifying creatures. Hearing such a word from Fischer, Basirian's expression became very dignified. Obviously, Basirian also knows the meaning of human nature. Sinister. However, he will not regret the point of protecting human beings. Basirian, in the future, if the dragons of your affinity faction die in battle, bring them to me, and I can give you a chance to be resurrected. Remember, only once. Looking down, Fischer got up and stood up, looked back at Basirian, and said to Basirian suddenly. After speaking, he jumped up and jumped towards the lower market. Eh? Resurrection? Basirian was confused by Fischer's words. Resurrection? What's the meaning? Is it literally meant to bring the dead back to life? Basirian's head was a little out of order. However, it is not surprising that he would have such a reaction, because he has lived for so many years, and he has never heard that dead creatures can be resurrected. Even their dragon clan can't do it. Even in the super ancient times before, I have never heard of such a situation. Naturally, Fischer didn't know that Basirian's mind was paralyzed by his 2 words. At this time, Fischer had fallen to Natsu's side in the courtyard. Natsu is very interested in dragon-slaying magic, and asked Fischer to add dragon-slaying magic to himself. But Fischer did not directly agree. After all, the sequelae of dragon-slaying magic are very terrifying. Natsu is an ordinary person now, not a demon of flame, and his body does not have a dragon soul possessing him, suppressing the dragon transformation. Fischer is really worried that adding dragon slayer magic to this guy will cause problems in the future. This matter has to be discussed with Jeref. Not getting a response from Fischer, Natsu was a little disappointed, so he had to watch Irene and others practice dragon slaying magic here. After seeing Fischer appearing beside him, the guy pouted immediately, looking awkward. Fischer patted the guy on the head amusedly, but didn't speak. Fischer. Irene, who was practicing dragon-slaying magic not far away, immediately put down her practice and ran over when she saw Fischer coming here. Irene, I'm going back. I'm here to say goodbye to you. Fischer nodded slightly, and then got straight to the point. Hey, I'm going back so soon. I've ordered the servants in the palace to prepare a grand banquet. Fischer's words made Irene a little surprised. There's no need for the banquet. I'm going back to continue reading magic books. Fischer shook his head lightly, declining the banquet prepared by Irene. How come? Don't be so anxious. Irene was a little anxious when she heard this. She wanted to treat Fischer well, to thank Fischer for helping humans this time. She didn't blame Fischer for not intervening in the war between humans and dragons, but was very grateful to Fischer, and grateful to Fischer for being willing to create a dragon slayer. Otherwise, I don't know, Ajik, how long it will take for her to practice adding magic to the magic that can add dragons. During this time, the affinity faction and the human side may have been defeated by the dragon of the killing faction. No, Fischer still refused. Natsu, let's go. We're going back. Looking at Natsu, Fischer rubbed Natsu's little head and said gently. However, Naz's reaction surprised Fischer slightly. Brother Fischer, I want to stay here. Naz looked at Fischer firmly and said to Fischer, there is no one else in the academy except Brother Fischer. There are many people here. I want to stay here. Is that okay? Brother Fischer. Naz continued. That's right. It's really impossible for a child like you to stay alone all the time. After all, human beings live in groups, and even a child like you can't stand that kind of loneliness. Well, that's fine, you can stay here if you want to. However, before that, you must make a guarantee. After pondering for a while, Fischer agreed to Naz's request, and then reached out and planted a goblin, one of the 3 super magics he just obtained, on Naz's body. All. One of the 3 super magics, Fairy Ball. This magic is to condense thoughts into powerful magic power, and create an absolutely invincible protective ball. All time will be frozen in the Fairy Ball, and time will continue to flow only when the Fairy Ball is released. To put it bluntly, this thing is made of powerful magic power. It's just that in this world, extreme emotions can be turned into very powerful power. Natsu's emotional fire, and a group of people with the same feelings and thoughts can gather together to become a powerful magic power. In terms of magic power, although Fischer can't compare with the giant dragon now, it is still no problem to create a fairy ball. Once Natsu is in danger, he will sense it immediately and transfer directly to the space. However, in the final analysis this is just a guarantee. After all, Irene is still here. As the queen of a country, Irene has the greatest power here before Basirian and other dragons die. With Irene around, Natsu will definitely be treated well and nothing will happen. Fischer made this for Natsu never against the human side, but against the dragon. After silently implanting the super magic fairy ball into Natsu's body, Fischer looked at Irene. "I'm counting on you, Natsu." "Irene." "I see, Fischer." Irene promised quickly. Fischer's refusal was very firm, so Irene would not mess around, and Fischer must participate. Now, Fischer's please Irene will definitely do it. "Yeah." Nodding slightly, Fischer pondered for a moment, and then continued, "Irene, go to my place directly after the war is over. Don't stay in the human kingdom." After leaving a word for Irene, Fischer directly used Blink, left here, and returned to the Myldean Academy of Magic, leaving only Irene with a blank face. Chapter 240, The Dragon King Coming Together. "Ah, what a hassle. Are these dragons bothering you?" The rumbling sound made Fischer put down the book in his hand, propped his cheek, looked up at the dusty ceiling above, and murmured. 2 months have passed since returning from the Doragunov kingdom. During these 2 months, the first half of the month was uneventful. But since 1.5 months ago, the Myldean School of Magic has had visitors one after another. One after another, giant dragons came here from the outside world. Moreover, every time a head appeared, every time it was easily cleaned up by Fischer. It perfectly reproduced the plot of the Calabash dolls that Fischer had seen in his previous life, giving them away one by one. 10 of them all came. Fischer's system space has placed 10 dragon hearts, magic crystals. This is the 11th dragon. Speaking of the fact that the dragon came to deliver it, Fischer had to complain about how poor the intelligence network of the killing faction's dragon is. The fact that Fischer killed the dragon is only spread among humans, and the dragons of the Slaughter faction can't communicate with humans, so Long of the Slaughter faction didn't know about it before. It wasn't until half a month ago that the giant dragon learned about it from the survivors who were teased by him and wanted to live after destroying a small town. Then, the dragon got angry, and after spreading the information, the dragon came directly to Fischer for trouble. The dragon's heart then became one of Fischer's magic crystal collections. Speaking of which, this giant dragon also destroyed Myldean Academy of Magic once. Due to the suddenness of the incident, Fischer was immersed in the magic books when the first giant dragon appeared, so he didn't notice the breath of this giant dragon at all. The dragon's breath was destroyed. Fortunately, Fischer had just mastered the Arc of Time found in many magic books at that time, thus restoring the Myldean Academy of Magic. Of course, the first giant dragon was also very sad. It was torn into pieces by the angry Fischer, and the most powerful thunderbolt was used to completely annihilate its remnant body. Even the dragon's heart and the magic crystal could not leave. However, after that, just in case, Fischer used the fairy ball to guard the entire Myldean Academy of Magic. No, the shock of the entire Myldean Academy of Magic is caused by the giant dragon outside attacking the fairy ball. Fischer also didn't hide the goblin ball. After all, Jeref could come back at any time. So the dragon clan was able to find the Myldean Academy of Magic. Really, I really want to hide the goblin spirit just like the situation on Sirius Island. Otherwise these dragons will be sent one by one like idiots. It's impossible for me to study magic quietly. Sighing again, Fischer closed the magic book on the table, and left the magic library in a flash. When it reappeared, it was already on the main square of Myldean Academy of Magic. Looking up, Fischer was slightly taken aback. Because, there are actually 2 giant dragons above at this time. One blue, one turquoise. Interesting. Looking at the 2 huge dragons above, Fischer's eyes flickered. He just felt a breath of the dragon clan just now, but he didn't expect there to be 2 ends. Being able to hide his own perception, the giant dragon that came over this time is very extraordinary. With a flash of figure again, Fischer directly left the fairy ball and came outside. "Human, you have a very strong dragon aura on your body. It's the resentment of our compatriots. You geese deserve death." After seeing Fischer's appearance, the turquoise dragon sensed seeing the aura on Fischer's body. He was suddenly extremely angry, and the whole dragon exploded directly. The ferocious dragon's mouth opened wide, and the turquoise hurricane condensed in its mouth. Just in an instant, an incomparably huge amount of energy condensed in its mouth, and then roared towards Fischer. Boom! Wherever the hurricane roared, distortions appeared in the space. "It's this guy who has hidden from my perception." A roar of this level, the king of dragons. The hurricane with terrifying power was close to his face, but Fischer was indifferent, standing quietly in midair, thinking silently facing the shining roar. The next moment, the roar of the hurricane directly hit Fischer. Seeing this scene, neither the blue dragon nor the turquoise dragon was excited, but their eyes revealed seriousness. Seeking flowers. Whether it's the blue dragon or the turquoise dragon, they all sensed from Fischer the resentment entangled in Fischer after the dragon's death. The masters of those grievances have a total of 11 giant dragons. This represents the death of 11 dragons at the hands of Fischer. In this case, how could the blue dragon and the turquoise dragon underestimate the enemy? Even if they witnessed Fischer being hit by the roar, they did not dare to underestimate the enemy. The dragon clan is proud, but it's not stupid or naive. Of course, except for some special characters. The unwary dragons are all dead. Sure enough, after the smoke cleared, Fischer appeared unharmed in front of the 2 giant dragons. This shocked the hearts of the 2 giant dragons. It's unscathed, especially the turquoise dragon. The attack just now was roaring with all his strength, and even if it couldn't seriously injure Fischer, at least it should be able to injure Fischer a little bit. But no, not at all. Not to mention the injuries on Fischer's body, even his clothes didn't change. Are you the Wind Dragon King? Fischer, who was unharmed, cast his eyes on the turquoise dragon and asked. Old Man Wind Dragon King Aegelus Froeska. The turquoise dragon calmed down, stared at Fischer solemnly, and replied. What about you, the Thunder Dragon King? Fischer nodded, and then looked at the other blue dragon. Old Man Thunder Dragon King Roger Alec. The blue dragon also spoke slowly. Sure enough, the 2-headed Dragon King. I didn't expect that I, Fischer, would be able to receive this kind of treatment. I'm so lucky, Fischer said with a light smile. The dragons that came before were just ordinary dragons, but this time it was the Dragon King, and the 2 Dragon Kings came together, which really gave Fischer enough face. Then, let's get started. Let me see the strength of the Dragon King. Fischer moved his hands and feet and said indifferently. The next moment, Fischer turned into an afterimage and rushed out. The pupils of the 2 Dragon Kings also shrank, flapped their wings and rushed out as afterimages. Boom. In an instant, the earth shook. What? Chapter 241 The Brilliance of the Goblin, killing the Thunder Dragon King. As soon as the battle started, the face of the Wind Dragon King Aegelus changed, because he found that his attack could not cause damage to Fischer. Every time the hurricane-wrapped dragon's claw landed on Fischer's body, it passed through Fischer's body, bringing up a series of thunderbolts, which couldn't hit Fischer at all. Instead, it was the old friend Ronna who was able to hit Fischer with a thunderous attack. It's elemental, and it's thunderous. Wind Dragon King Aegelus, as an old fritter who has lived for hundreds of years, is naturally well informed, and immediately understood what happened to Fischer up. It is precisely because of understanding the changes in Fischer that the Wind Dragon King Aegelus will have such a reaction. Because, the ability of elementalization can only be dealt with by the same element 943, and other attributes cannot cause damage to it. In other words, only Thunder Dragons are qualified to deal with Fischer. Wind Dragon King Aegelus can see it, and Ra, who is the Thunder Dragon King, can also see it at a glance. Aegelus, leave this place to me. You use my name to summon all the Thunder Dragons and let them come here. This human must be exterminated, otherwise it will be the end of the Dragon Clan. Ra, who was confronting Fischer, took time out to shout loudly to Aegelus. The old man knows. Aegelus didn't refuse either, and left the battlefield directly, flapping his wings and flying into the distance. Odo, that's not acceptable. I don't want to cause too much trouble right now. I can't ask you to inform the other dragons. Seeing Aegelus leaving the battlefield, Fischer was ready to stop him, because Fischer didn't want Aegelus to pull people over. The attack of a Thunder Dragon can threaten the elementalization of his own thunder. When he came to this world and dealt with the first Thunder Dragon, Fischer already knew it. Let Aegelus call all the Thunder Dragons over. With his current strength, he can't deal with them at all. This Fischer is self-aware. However, as soon as he left the battlefield, Fischer was entangled again by Ra. The thunder-wrapped dragon's claw slammed into Fischer's way forward with a mighty power to tear apart space, causing Fischer to stop directly. Even if the terrifying claw strike didn't hit the ground directly, the powerful impact had already caused a huge bottomless gully to appear on the ground. No, it should be called a canyon. This is the power of a series of Dragon Kings, changing the terrain with just one blow. What a hassle. As I guessed, the strength of the Dragon King is on par with me. No, my strength is stronger than the Thunder Dragon King in front of me. However, it is simply impossible to defeat this guy in a short period of time. Continuing to fight in this way will most likely turn into a protracted battle. Looking at the Thunder Dragon King Ra standing in front of him, Fischer's expression was not very good. The old man won't let you pass here. Flapping his wings, Thunder Dragon King Ra said solemnly. It's really troublesome. I don't bother you anymore, but you come to me again and again. You really think I'm easy to bully? Looking at the Thunder Dragon King Ra in front of him, Fischer sighed slightly. From the beginning, my purpose was to find the Dragon Clan to study the magic of the Dragon Clan. If you want to study the magic of the Dragon Clan, the first thing is to kill the Dragon Clan and conduct research from the Dragon Clan. The second is to communicate with the Dragon Clan and learn from the Dragon Clan. However, when creating the Dragon Slayer, Fischer, who was in close contact with the origin of the dragons, already understood the essence of the Dragon Slayer magic, so he already had an understanding of the magic of the Dragon Clan. And he no longer wanted to pay attention to the Dragon Clan. Its magic. The first method of killing dragons and researching from the corpses of dragons was directly abandoned by Fischer. But the Dragon Clan sent them to the door by themselves, one after another, and now 2 Dragon Kings came at once. Fischer felt that since he didn't go to trouble with the Dragon Clan, his temper was already mild enough. Forget it. I originally wanted to have a good fight with the 2 of you, but the situation has become like this, so I will kill you directly. After a slight sigh, Fischer's eyes became deeper, and his voice also instantly. The incomparably indifferent expression became as hard as ice in an instant. Kill the old man. It depends on your ability, human. Fischer's words immediately enraged Thunder Dragon King roared and rushed towards Fischer. The dragon claws were entwined with terrifying thunderbolts. Fischer swung it down. Buzz. The moment the attack landed, an incomparably powerful thunder erupted from Fischer's body, blocking the Thunder Dragon King's attack. Immediately, a tattoo appeared on the back of Fischer's hand. It was the tattoo of the Fairy Tale Guild. Intense light burst out from the tattoo, and terrifying magic power gathered on it. Then, Shell's murmurs reached the Thunder Dragon King Ro's ears. Gather, the river of light that guides the fairies. Light up, to destroy the minions of evil. The splendor of the fairies. This is, Thunder Dragon King Ro was stunned, and quickly raised his gaze because he could feel the power emanating from the sun. The moon and the stars was constantly gathered by the tattoo on the back of Fischer's hand, and the speed was astonishing 0.4. In just 2 seconds, the coat of arms on the back of Fischer's hand gathered incomparably terrifying power. A power that makes it feel very dangerous. Don't even think about it. Thunder Dragon King Ro shrank his pupils and roared. Lightning quickly gathered in his mouth. It's late. Facing Thunder Dragon King Ro, whose expression changed drastically, the corners of Fischer's mouth curled up slightly, revealing a sneer. The next moment, Fischer raised his golden arm, and waved it at Thunder Dragon King Ro casually. The next moment, under Thunder Dragon King's terrified gaze, Fischer's right hand burst into a fierce light. The light shone, and the entire world became a field of light. Damn it. Chapter 242 Super Magic and Dragon Soul. This is magic. Completely different from can only use the mind energy born in the body to fight, and there is still a limit on the output of mind energy. But magic can absorb the energy between the heavens and the earth and transform it into an attack. The brilliance of the fairy. This super magic is the super magic that gathers the brilliance of the sun, the moon and the stars, a ruthless light that will never allow the enemy to survive. If it wasn't, I wouldn't be able to do such a thing. Fischer looked at the behemoth that had made no sound on the ground, and was deeply moved. When he first came to the world of fairy tale, Fischer's sense of magic was no different from his. But after completing the system's sign-in task and obtaining the 3 super magics, Fischer knew that the magic in this world was different from his. No, it should be said that super magic has been separated from ordinary magic, and it can almost be said to be superior and inferior. No wonder a super magic is added before the word magic, because once the super magic is used, it must be destroyed. If it weren't, Fischer would not be able to kill an enemy of Thunder Dragon King's level with one blow. But after using the brilliance of the super magic Goblin, Fischer, whose magic power was not as good as Kowloon Wing's in '09, easily killed this guy. To a certain extent, as long as the magic is powerful, it is all dragon-slaying magic. It's just that the dragon-slaying magic is drawn from the dragon. It is targeted and can harm the dragons. That's why it's named dragon-slaying magic. However, super magic is strong, but I will not give up those ordinary magic. It just takes a little more time. Ordinary magic is no better than super magic. I can easily master it. Rubbing his chin, Fischer muttered to himself. The next moment, Shell stretched out his hand and put the Thunder Dragon King's body into the system space. Then, a faint blue crystal appeared in Fischer's hand, which was the heart of the Thunder Dragon King and the source of magic power of the Dragon Clan. However, Fischer felt something different as soon as he started using it. Dragon Soul? Fischer sensed the Thunder Dragon King's soul in the magic crystal. However, it seems that because of the terrible attack, the Dragon Soul with the power of the magic crystal has completely lost its intelligence. Will a dragon of the Dragon King level leave a soul after death? Fischer was a little puzzled. Earlier, Fischer had killed 11 giant dragons, but the hearts left behind by those giant dragons, that is, the magic crystal, did not have souls at all. Speaking of this, it seems that there is also a dragon soul in the Dragon Tomb 400 years later. What is it called? Oh, by the way, Actione, that guy is also the Dragon King? Fischer thought of the scenes in the original book, and couldn't help but twitch the corners of his mouth. That Actione looked out of place, and Fischer couldn't imagine that he was the Dragon King. No, that guy appeared because he was summoned by Wendy's magic. It shouldn't be the Dragon King. However, the soul of the dragon seems to be quite useful. This thing can be put into the body of the Dragon Slayer, so that the Dragon Slayer's physique will produce antibodies, so that the Dragon Slayer will not transform into a dragon. You can consider finding a female dragon for Irene. As long as Irene's body produces antibodies, then there will be no changes in the dragon. I just don't know if Dragon King level dragons can really leave their souls after death, or Shifu Dragon King is a special case. Also, it is impossible to confirm that there is a female Dragon King among the Dragon Kings. Looking at the magic crystal with the dragon soul in his hand, Fischer guessed that he was also sitting and preparing for Irene's situation. It seems that we need to go to Bessarion to make sure. That guy is also a Dragon King class. He should know this. See and do. Fischer uses space in the Doragunov kingdom. However, before Fischer could take any action, Fischer felt that the direction of the Doragunov kingdom had the aura of dragons coming towards it. It seems to be that fellow Bessarion has a dragon sacrificed so soon in the dragon family of the Affinity faction. Fischer was a little puzzled, and stopped moving towards Doragunov. He didn't think that in this situation, Bessarion would come to him without incident. You must know that in the current situation, the two factions of giant dragons are inextricably killed, very tragic, and the Affinity faction is even suppressed by the giant dragons of the Killing faction. Unless it was absolutely necessary, it was impossible for Bessarion to leave the battlefield too far. At most, he would return to the Doragunov kingdom. As for coming to himself, there was no need to think about it. The only possibility to be able to come to me at this point in time is what I told him before. When the friendly dragon died, bring the corpses, and he would revive them. For humans of this age, Fischer has no good senses. As for the dragon clan who are desperately fighting for humans, Fischer is full of favorability. After all, Fischer is also human. So for these dragons who died fighting for humans, Fischer didn't mind giving them a new life. However, as a price, they cannot rejoin the battlefield. Fischer's resurrection of dead dragons doesn't mean they're going to die all over again. Moreover, Fischer will resurrect them only if he becomes his kin. Standing on the broken ruins, Fischer quietly waited for Bessarion's arrival. The speed of the Dragon King level dragon is very fast. The Wind Dragon King Aegis who left before left here in less than 10 seconds, and he didn't even feel the death of the Thunder Dragon King. And Bessarion's speed is also very fast. In less than half a minute, this guy arrived here. The huge dragon body fell in front of Fischer, and there were two lifeless dragons in his grief. This is the aura of Thunder Dragon King Rond Wind Dragon King Aegis 230. Have those two guys come here? Bessarion spoke as soon as he landed. Well, the Thunder Dragon King was killed by me, and the Wind Dragon King left before then. Fischer nodded and explained frankly. These calm words shocked Bessarion 3 times. However, Bessarion soon felt relieved. After all, Fischer could make him feel the existence of a crisis. As the Dragon King, it is not surprising that Ro would be killed by Fischer. Regarding Ro's matter, Bessarion didn't want to ask. What he cared about most now was what Fischer meant by resurrection. Putting down the bodies of the two partners, Bessarion lowered his head. Fischer, can you explain the resurrection to me now? Come back. Bessarion, I will not allow them to rejoin the war after they are revived. Bessarion, they have already fought and died for humans once, and they don't need to fight for humans again. Looking at Bessarion's shocked gaze, Fischer said lightly, and then took out the natural teeth from the system space. I will let them leave this continent after they are resurrected, and find a place to live in seclusion. Bessarion, okay. Chapter 243 Planning Dragon Magic, Fischer's Disgust. What are you doing? Is this your resurrection method? Bessarion was a little confused when he saw Fischer biting his fingers and carving something on his companion's back. How could it be possible to be resurrected so easily? It's impossible to imagine. Fischer raised his head and gave Bessarion a white look, and said contemptuously, what you portray yourself is grace. First describe it well. After using the natural teeth to revive them later, the favor will take effect immediately, and the two giant dragons will directly become their subordinates, and they will only listen to what they say. After all, the dragon's self-esteem is very strong. If they don't do this, it is impossible for them to agree to become their subordinates. It's good for their senses, but resurrecting them by yourself is not free. The price is to let these giant dragons become his own family members, and he can also get the wool from these guys by the way to obtain the magic of the dragon. So you have to think about engraving the grace before they are resurrected. At that time, even if they don't want to, they will become their own dependents, and there is no way to regret it. No, it should be said that if you don't portray in a Hui, then you won't have the intention of turning against the sea. Because the existence of grace will not change their personalities, but it will not make them have any bad thoughts about Fischer. Bessarion was also embarrassed by Fischer's contempt. Dragonclaw scratched his forehead, acting a little foolish. In no time, Fischer had grace portrayed. After the dragon's grief, Fischer directly pulled out his natural teeth, and the natural teeth exuding light blue light slashed directly at the two giant dragons with two swords. Frightened Bessarion thought that Fischer was going to flog his corpse. However, then he noticed the breath of life coming from the two giant dragons. Later, he witnessed the resurrection of two dead companions. Didn't you just say that it's impossible to resurrect so easily? Are you serious at that moment just now? Seeing the lively appearance of the two companions who had fallen once, Bessarion turned his head to look at Fischer, and spoke calmly. "Ah, it seems to be quite serious." Fischer looked at the natural teeth in his hands, and then said with some embarrassment, "Bessarion." Although he was very speechless towards Fischer, Bessarion didn't care about this either. He is very happy now, happy for his companion to come back to life. "Bessarion, aren't we dead?" The two giant dragons stood up slowly, and asked in confusion after seeing Bessarion. Obviously, the two newly revived dragons haven't figured out the situation yet. "The thing is like this," Bessarion began to explain to the two giant dragons. As for Fischer, Fischer had no intention of participating in their conversation, because at this time Fischer has already received feedback from the two dragons. The benefits of the revived two giant dragons immediately took effect, and the two giant dragons directly became Fischer's subordinates. As a giant dragon, its aptitude goes without saying. As soon as they became family members, the two giant dragons were divided into Fischer's forces and became members of Fischer's forces. Ding! Congratulations to the host for getting a new faction member and getting a sign-in reward once. May I ask the host to sign in? Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the ability feedback from Iratoka Wembley. The host has obtained the Fire Dragon magic. Ding! Congratulations to the host for getting a new faction member and getting a sign-in reward once. May I ask the host to sign in? Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the ability feedback from Bellefull's Cleanake. The host has obtained the magic of the Water Dragon. Water, fire. Moreover, the obtained dragon magic. With a mutter in his heart, Fischer began to feel his newfound magic. The magic of the dragon is the same as the magic of Dragon Slayer, and it is no different from the original magic of the dragon that Fischer came into contact with when he made the Dragon Slayer wizard for the Doragunov kingdom. Dragon magic, when Fischer wanted it, was readily available. But Fischer did not become a Dragon Slayer, because the Dragon Slayer has the disadvantage of being afraid of vehicles. Fischer didn't want to add such a shortcoming to himself because of the dragon slaying magic. However, Fischer didn't just give up on dragon magic. Reviving the dead dragon and making the dragon his own family is the plan to obtain dragon magic. The ability to feedback from the system is absolutely perfect. There will be no flaws. This point, Fischer understood when recruiting Kurapika. The absolute time used by Kurapika's red eyes will consume 1 hour of life in 1 second, and the red eye trait obtained by Fischer can also open the absolute time, but it does not have the weakness of consuming life. That is to say, let the system feedback the magic of the dragon, and Fischer will not experience motion sickness or traffic sickness. In fact, in this era, Fischer has the opportunity to make all the dragons his own, kill, then in grave favor, use natural teeth to resurrect a dragon with a package. But Fischer didn't do that. Doing this by yourself is likely to cause a backlash from all the dragon clans. There are at least 10,000 dragon clans in this era. If I do this, then the dragon clan will know, and it is very likely that the two factions will unite to deal with me. Even if he has the ability of elementalization, he will definitely not be able to hold 10,000 giant dragons. The second is the god Angslem. Doing this by myself is only possible after verifying that natural teeth can be used in this world. And the ability of the natural teeth has been verified, and he has become a thorn in the eyes of god Angslem. Once I have any adversity, god Angslem will definitely join in. A very formidable foe. At that time, the two will besiege, and I don't know how I died. As for the third, it is that Fischer hates the humans of this age. In Fischer's view, since human beings in this era have enjoyed the safe environment brought to them by the Dragon Slayers, they naturally need to pay something. Even if you don't pay anything, you can't kill the donkey. At least you must treat the meritorious officials kindly. But how do humans in this era treat Irene? Irene was imprisoned for 3 years and finally sentenced to death. Is this the treatment of a hero? Don't say that ordinary people don't know. This doesn't work on Fischer's side. The mutation of Irene happened in full view at first, and the residents of the entire Doragunov kingdom should know about it. But during the 3 years when Irene was imprisoned, no one in the Doragunov kingdom proposed to let Irene go, and the result of 3 years of discussion was to execute Irene. This made Fischer very sick. So Fischer didn't want these guys to enjoy the security of his post-dragon slaying. As a last resort, Fischer chose the dead dragon of the Affinity faction. Gain dragon magic from these friendly dragons. Chapter 244, Toolman Jeref, Dragon Slayer Naz. Dragon Soul? The old man has heard of dragon magic such as the Dragon Soul technique, but I really don't know what you are talking about. After all, the Dragon Clan has been born for so many years and no Dragon King has ever fallen. The old man thinks that the Thunder Dragon King used the Dragon Soul technique before he died, so that his soul survived. However, the Dragon Souls that survived the Dragon Soul technique are conscious. According to what you said, it should be that your strength is too strong, so you wiped out that guy's consciousness. Listening to Fischer's question about Dragon Soul, Bessarion thought for a moment and then gave there was an answer. The Dragon Clan does seem to have something, just like Ignilu and the other 5. After listening to Bessarion's explanation, Fischer also remembered something and nodded. What, do you know that guy Ignilu? Hearing Ignilu's name from Fischer, Bessarion seemed very surprised. The giant dragon who is also in Affinity faction. He and Ignilu are naturally acquainted. It's just that although Ignilu is friendly to humans, He has not joined the war between the Affinity faction and the Killing faction. As for Ignilu, he also visited many times, and wanted to ask Ignilu to protect the human race together, but Ignilu never took pictures of them. Although that guy is friendly to humans, he insists not to participate in the affairs between humans. Even the war between the Affinity faction and the 033 Killing faction did not participate. Ah, I know him, but he just doesn't know me. Fischer nodded indifferently. However, according to your words, may I think that you don't know the Dragon Soul technique? Fischer asked again. What Bessarion said just now made him aware of this. Ah, that's natural. The Dragon Soul art is a very ancient secret art. Only those ancient giant dragons can master it. I am just a new generation of giant dragons. Although I have grown into a series of Dragon Kings, I have not inherited this kind of secret art. Mystery. The Thunder Dragon King is a very ancient Dragon King, so it's not surprising that this old man knows this secret technique. Bessarion nodded slightly, opened and closed his mouth, and replied, I see. Is that so? Fischer was thoughtful. It seems that Ignilu and the others should be old antiques of the Dragon clan, so they have the Dragon Soul technique. Yes, it is like that. Fischer, can you give me the crystal of the dog-red Thunder Dragon King? I'll see if I can obtain the Dragon Soul technique from the Thunder Dragon King's soul. Bessarion looked very embarrassed when he said this. Oh, you want this? Here you go. Ajk. Fischer heard the words, looked at the Thunder Dragon King magic crystal in his hand, and then threw it directly. Fischer threw it away as soon as he said it, but Bessarion didn't react, and quickly took it in a hurry. The scene of the huge dragon clan rushing around was extremely funny. Thank you, Fischer. After catching the Thunder Dragon King's magic crystal, Bessarion heaved a sigh of relief, and then thanked him aloud. Remember to return the Dragon Soul art to me after you get it out. Fischer waved his hand indifferently, and warned aloud. Although the Thunder Dragon King magic crystal is of no use to him, it can be used to train his subordinates. When the magic work is done, Fischer will start researching the second generation of Dragon Slayer magic. At that time, the dragon magic crystal in his hand will play a role, or throw it to Jeff, a tool man, to study it. That guy really likes research. He has created all kinds of taboo magic, taboo products, and even demons are from his hands. It shouldn't be a big problem for him to get a second generation Dragon Slayer. Of course, after I take out the Dragon Soul technique, I will send the magic crystal back. Bessarion agreed without hesitation. Well, you can leave now. Fischer nodded, then waved his hand and began to chase people away. No, dragon. He himself was also walking in the direction of Maldian Academy of Magic. However, after walking a few steps, Fischer noticed something was wrong and looked back. I saw that Bessarion did not leave, but scratched his head on the spot, looking embarrassed, as if he had something difficult to say. What's the matter? Is there anything else? Fischer wondered. There is something else I want to tell you, Bessarion said in a tone of embarrassment. Say it. Fischer also urged him bluntly upon hearing this. The Natsu you left in the kingdom before has become a Dragon Slayer. Bessarion nodded, and then said, Fischer. The child pestered Irene to become a mage, but Halen didn't agree, so the child quietly followed to the battlefield. Irene had no choice but to perform the ceremony of adding dragon power for him. The child is now learning dragon slaying magic from one of our fire dragons. Bessarion explained embarrassingly. Has the Dragon Slayer joined the battlefield so soon? Fischer is not surprised that Natsu has become a Dragon Slayer. After all, this guy is very related to the Dragon clan. What he is curious about is this. It has only been more than a month since the appearance of the Dragon Slayer mage. Isn't it a bit hasty to go to the battlefield so soon? No way. We don't have much time left. We can't spare much time to teach them. We can only let them use this method to grow. Mentioning this, Bessarion's tone was a bit tired, but seems to be afraid that Fischer will misunderstand. This guy hastily opened his mouth, but don't worry, the child Nas did not go to the battlefield. Las Raphael is teaching that child in the kingdom. It's really cruel. Bessarion, send Natsu here. Although I don't reject that kid becoming a Dragon Slayer, I need to be responsible for the kid's safety. After all, Jeff asked me to take care of the kid before he left. Fischer shook his head slightly, and then told Bessarion Road. I see, I will bring him here when I go back. Bessarion nodded in response. Then, the old man is going back now. Fischer, see you later. Bessarion stood up, said goodbye to Fischer, and then simply flapped his wings soaring into the sky, and left here. Natsu, that's true. Seeing Bessarion's leaving back, Fischer sighed slightly. As for the two giant dragons that Fischer revived, Fischer had already let them leave this continent to inhabit other continents. There are many continents in the world of fairy tale besides Ishkal, and Ishkal is just one of them. Fischer didn't want the two subordinates whom he saved quietly to join the war again and die in the war. That would be more harm than good. At the same time, on a certain tragic battlefield on the mainland, the Wind Dragon King Eaglet was approaching rapidly. At this time, there are many giant dragons on the battlefield, as well as the Dragon Slayer wizard led by Irene who uses dragon slaying magic. This kid Natsu is hiding somewhere on the battlefield. Chapter 245, Natsu the Bear. Oh, is this war? It's amazing. Lying on an inconspicuous boulder, little Natsu looked at the scene in front of him, jumping for joy, without hiding the power of the dragon in his body. Fortunately, the battlefield at this time is very chaotic, and various dragon powers are constantly erupting, otherwise, Natsu would definitely be discovered. However, other people didn't notice it, but Irene, the first dragon slayer who personally gave Naz the power of a dragon, noticed it. Didn't Raphael look at this kid? How could this kid appear here? Irene, who was relying on the power of Lumen Xinui to entangle a giant dragon, looked extremely anxious at this moment. Fischer entrusted Natsu's safety to her. Naz was sent to the battlefield before, but luckily it was a truce, so nothing happened. But now it happened to be in battle, and it was much more dangerous than before. But Naz actually appeared here, and Irene almost scolded Raphael in her heart. Human, you seem to be absent-minded. Is something distracting you? It was a wind attribute dragon who was fighting with Irene. At this time, he also noticed the change in Irene's expression, so he opened his mouth. Although it is hostile, Irene's situation makes this wind attribute giant dragon admire him very much. Because Irene, as a human being, was able to fight alone with this giant dragon, single-handedly without losing the wind. On the contrary, the other human beings who appeared on the battlefield are all assisting the same race to fight, and they cannot rely on their own strength to fight against them dragon race. Irene is an alternative on the battlefield. For the opponent's words, Irene naturally did not respond, but withdrew most of her attention from Naz, leaving only a little perception to pay attention to Naz. Paying too much attention to Naz's situation can easily be discovered by the opponent, and Naz will definitely be drawn into the battlefield at that time. Irene now only hopes that Naz can understand the cruelty of war and leave here. Otherwise, it would be very detrimental to her and Naz. And at this time, on the other side, Basirian of the Doragunov kingdom also returned here. Once back here, Basirian went directly to the companion who taught Natsu the dragon-slaying magic. However, when he felt his companion's territory, Basirian saw a huge dragon with flames all over his body, the whole body of the dragon lying on the ground, with an intoxicated expression on his face, and he slumped all over the ground. This is the reaction of eating the dream dragon grass. Looking at his companion lying on the ground without any image, Searslian's longan twitched. Dream dragon grass. This is a medicinal herb that can make the dragons drunk and dreamy. There are many on the mainland, but it is a taboo among the dragons, because the dragon clan will fall into a deep sleep for 3 days after eating it, and will fall into a dreamland within 3 days. During this period, the giant dragon that fell into sleep will only wake up when it is attacked by the outside world. It's okay if you meet a companion, but if you meet a hostile dragon, one blow is enough to seriously injure the sleeping dragon. Therefore, although this thing is very effective for the dragon clan, it is not as good as the dragon clan. Really, this guy Raphael actually eats this thing. Isn't he afraid of accidents? Also, where did that kid Natsu go? Although his companion ate the forbidden herb of the dragon clan, Basirian didn't say anything, and began to look for Natsu. However, no matter how I searched, I couldn't find it. Basirian had no choice but to slap Las Raphael, who was sleeping soundly on the ground. Raw, who hit this old man? After being slapped across the face, the giant dragon named Las Raphael immediately woke up, bursting out with a strong wake-up breath. However, just as he roared, Las Raphael received another slap on the forehead. It's the old man. Why? Do you want to fight with the old man? Basirian raised his dragon claws and stared at Las Raphael, dissatisfied. Basirian, even you can't take pictures of this old man. Las Raphael was furious when he heard this. Don't talk about that. What about Natsu? Basirian asked directly, completely ignoring Las Raphael's anger. Mentioning Naz, Las Raphael also came to his senses, and his long eyes almost popped out. The old man remembered that Brat plotted against the old man. With a loud roar, Las Raphael flapped his wings, soared into the sky, and flew out towards the sky. Huh? That direction is the battlefield. No way. Looking at the direction Las Raphael flew out of, an ominous premonition rose in Basirian's heart. Immediately, Basirian also soared into the sky and followed. Don't let anything happen to you, Natsu, Brat. On the other side, Mildian Academy of Magic. Fischer, you bastard, how did you take care of Naz? At this time, Fischer was being questioned by Jeff Xingshi, who had just returned. Fischer was a little confused by Jeff's attitude as soon as he came back. Did Jeref know that he sent Natsu to the Doragunov kingdom? Even if you know, don't be so angry, right? Natsu ran to the battlefield of the dragon clan. Hurry up and bring him back. Jeref also saw Fischer's confusion, took a deep breath, and forced himself to calm down and explain. 2 hours ago, he happened to pass by the dragon clan's battlefield, and wanted to wait and see, but saw Natsu's voice on the edge of the battlefield. This directly frightened Jeff to death hunting. However, Jeff quickly controlled it without letting the dragons find out. If it weren't for the contradictory curse on him, he would have brought Natsu back by himself. However, just seeing Naz's change of mood made him flinch. Others didn't bring it back, but were directly killed by their own death hunting. So Jeff went straight back to Mildian Academy of Magic to find Fischer, and asked Fischer to bring Natsu back. By the way, I would like to express my dissatisfaction with Fischer for not taking good care of his brother. The battlefield? Fischer was also stunned, and then the corners of his eyes twitched slightly, feeling upset. What happened to these two guys, Irene and Irene? Why did Natsu go to the battlefield again? You wait, I'm going to bring that brat back now, Fischer said to Jeref, and then left the Mildian Academy of Magic with a flash. He ran to the battlefield twice in a row at a young age. What is it if he is not a brat? While the child is still young, bring it back and give him a good beating. Looking at the empty seats, Jeff sighed slightly. Then Jeff frowned. That guy Natsu has the power similar to Igniru, the power of the dragon? Besides, there were a lot of powers similar to Natsu's on the battlefield just now. What's going on? Jeref frowned and thought. On the other side, just using Blink to come to Naz's side, before Fischer could speak, Fischer heard a familiar voice. Under the order of the Thunder Dragon King Ra, all the Thunder Dragons will follow this old man. Aegla's voice resounded across the battlefield. Fischer, Spoon. Chapter 246. Participating in the war. Here is the battlefield so far away from Mildian Academy of Magic. At the speed of the Dragon King, this guy flew for half an hour to arrive. Looking at the majestic and aggressive Wind Dragon King Aeglas in the sky, Fischer blinked and said blankly, "Wow, you, brother Fischer, why are you here?" Fischer said, and the excited Natsu who was watching the battle was startled, jumped 3 feet high, and shouted loudly. With this shout, the eyes of the people in the dragon who had stopped fighting because of the roar of the Wind Dragon King Aeglas were attracted. "You bastard! Do you know what's going on right now?" Fischer was also left speechless by Naz's thoughtless reaction, and was very shot over. 693 Then what? I'll just pass by if you hit you. Facing the eyes of the crowd and the dragon, Fischer said, "Master Fischer, why are you here? And Naz is here too." At this time, Irene also said in surprise. Hearing Irene talking to herself, Fischer slapped her forehead. "Okay, I can't go now." Sighing heavily, Fischer said helplessly. Originally, Fischer planned to leave here with Natsu directly. But when Irene opened her mouth, Fischer knew that she couldn't leave, because once she leaves, Irene will become the existence that is set on fire. The Wind Dragon King Aeglas came here this time to summon the Thunder Dragon to deal with him. In the impression of Wind Dragon King Aeglas, he should be fighting his old friend Ra now. But now he is here. Moreover, I just killed Thunder Dragon King Ra, so I definitely have Ra's resentment on him. All the dragon clans that the Wind Dragon King is already present will not notice if they don't see him. But once they find him, they will definitely notice it. For this point, even with the breath restraint technique, it is useless. After all, they are all face to face. It doesn't matter whether they use the breath restraint technique or not, everything is exposed. After knowing that he is related to Irene, once he leaves, Irene who talks to him will definitely become the target of Wind Dragon King Aeglas. Fischer doesn't think Irene is the Dragon King's opponent. And now that Irene is his subordinate, it is naturally impossible for Fischer to let Irene be targeted by the Dragon Clan just like that. Sure enough, at this time, the Wind Dragon King Aeglas had already noticed the fall of the Thunder Dragon King, and he was so angry that his whole body was berserk, and he exploded directly. Many Thunder Dragons on the battlefield also noticed the aura of the Thunder Dragon King's fall on Fischer, and they roared to the sky one by one, and rushed towards Fischer after roaring. Really? Looking at the many dragons rushing over, Fischer sighed slightly, activated the fairy ball on Naz's body, and then rose into the sky to meet the rushing dragons. Blazing flames erupted on Fischer's body, and Fischer turned into a rocket and collided with the Wind Dragon King Aeglas who was the first to bear the brunt. Exclamation mark. With a loud bang, a terrifying shockwave swept out from the air, and the powerful wind pressure all over the sky swept away, making the steps of many giant dragons rushing over paused. Boom! There was another loud noise, and 2 figures, Ritan and Xiao, shot out in different directions. Don't interfere with other giant dragons. This human will be transformed into a thunder element, and the thunder dragons will work together to encircle and suppress them. The Wind Dragon King Aeglas who flew out flapped his wings and forcibly stopped his inverted body, and ordered to the crowd. As soon as these words came out, the giant dragon present looked at Fischer in shock. The rest is for the old man to capture that woman. At this time, the Wind Dragon King Aeglas shifted his eyes to Irene, and continued to order. Roar. Many giant dragons roared to the sky, and then acted according to the order of Klonkai Aegras. 7 or 8 lightning dragons rushed towards Fischer, while the rest all rushed towards Irene. Even the Wind Dragon King Aeglas is the same. Naturally, it was impossible for the giant dragons of the Affinity faction to watch the giant dragons of the Killing faction besiege Fischer and Irene. Many giant dragons from the Affinity faction faced the giant dragons from the Slaughter faction and killed them, and the Dragon Slayer mages also rushed forward one after another. The battlefield is open again. There are also 3 giant dragons and a dozen wizards coming towards Fischer, ready to help Fischer share the enemy. However, they were all rejected by Fischer. You don't need to intervene here, you go and help Irene. Fischer who stood in the void was covered in flames, and did not use the power of thunder, calmly commanded. However, several giant dragons did not listen to Fischer's words and insisted on flying towards Fischer. Regarding this, Fischer didn't say anything, and with a flash of figure, he charged towards the lightning dragon gate that flew over. Various colors, faint blue, golden yellow, crimson, etc., thunder and lightning and crimson flames erupted in the air. Fischer fought with 8 thunder dragons. Seeing this, the giant dragons rushing over were secretly anxious, and their flying speed became faster. The same was true for the dragon slayer wizards running below, jumping quickly in the mountain, heading towards Fischer at the fastest speed. Come here, want to share the hostile combat power as soon as possible. However, the next moment, both the giant dragon and the dragon slayer wizards who came over stopped, flying in the air one by one, standing on the ground, looking at the scene in front of them in astonishment. Just now, the resistance between Fischer and the rich dragon came to fruition. A huge dragon soared into the sky and landed on the ground. 5.8. If it's just like this, it's not enough for the giant dragons and dragon slayer wizards of the Affinity faction to show this kind of reaction. The reason why the Affinity faction and dragon slayer wizards had this reaction was entirely because of the scene they had just witnessed. They witnessed the falling dragon with their own eyes, and it was vivid in their eyes. The right half of the huge dragon body disappeared. Half of the body disappears. What this means, the dragons and people present all know. Unexpectedly, one of the giant dragons yelled out in disbelief. The other giant dragons also noticed the situation here at this time, and immediately, the war that had just started again stopped at this moment, and all the giant dragons and dragon slayers looked at Fischer in shock. A needle can be heard throughout the battlefield. Chapter 247. The Retreating Dragon Clan, Cruel War. This is a battlefield. If you are not careful, you will die. So Fischer didn't intend to hold back from the beginning. The dragon magic that Fischer obtained from the water and fire dragons is very strong, and it is about a little weaker than the Thunder Dragon King. Dragon magic is dragon magic on dragons, and dragon slaying magic on humans. Dragon slaying magic is very specific to dragons. Ordinary magic can't tear the scales of the dragon clan at all, because the power of ordinary magic is not strong. Dragon slaying magic is fine, and Fischer's own magic power is very strong and has a physique not weaker than that of dragons. Even, on the basis of dragon slaying magic, Fischer also uses Enhancer Domineering. Under various abilities, it is only one blow, thank you, it directly killed a giant dragon. This situation is a very shocking scene. The people and dragons present were shocked, because, even the Dragon King can't do this kind of thing. Killing the Dragon Clan in seconds, this kind of thing has never happened. Even the battle among the Dragon Clan has never happened. However, now it is actually happening. Does this mean that this guy's strength surpasses our Dragon King? 09. Ra was killed because of the terrifying power of this human being. This human being must not be allowed to live. However, this guy's thunder elementalization is very tricky. As long as he doesn't want to get hurt, then 5 people can damage him except the Thunder Dragon. Ordinary Thunder Dragons are no match for this guy at all, but that companion just now. It's not suitable to start a life and death fight with this guy for the time being. We must have a long-term plan. At least 2 Thunder Dragon Kings need to be born among the Thunder Dragons to be able to deal with this guy. Let's avoid it for now. Witnessing that Fischer killed a Thunder Dragon with one blow, the Wind Dragon King Aegis was both angry and fearful. Retreat. In the end, the Wind Dragon King Aegis made a very shameful decision, roared up to the sky, and then issued an order loudly. In other cases, the dragon will never obey the order of the Wind Dragon King Aegis, because the dragon's self-esteem is very strong, stronger than any race, and it will never allow itself to run away. However, now, with the order of the Wind Dragon King Aegis, the many killing dragons did not have any intention of resisting at all, and quickly flapped their wings and left here. Giant dragons are not fools. They all know the horror of elementalization, and only thunder dragons can deal with it. But now, the thunder dragon present was easily killed by Fischer. This means that none of their dragons can hurt Fischer on this battlefield. Staying here will only become Fischer's target, and they can only passively defend and cannot attack Fischer. If you continue to stay here, you may even die. Like the companion just now, this kind of thing is more aggrieved, and it is not much worse than losing your dignity. It's better to go back and discuss countermeasures, how to deal with Fischer. But seeing the enemy retreat, the giant dragon present did not chase them down, because only the dragon can be hunted down. Human dragon slayers simply couldn't keep up with the speed of the dragon. There are very few dragon clans in the Affinity faction, otherwise there would not be such wizards as dragon slayers. It's just that the dragon of the Affinity faction chased after it. Isn't that delivering food? The eyes of the people and dragons who were still present at this time still fell on Fischer. Everyone's eyes are shocked, dragon, and excited. Human. Let's go now. Fischer was a little dazed looking at the giant dragon of the Slaughter faction who left. He was already ready for a big fight with the excited and unstoppable appearance of the giant dragons such as Wind Dragon King Aegis before. The result was thunder and rain with little rain. This speechlessly pouted. Fischer quickly returned to the ground and landed beside Natsu. That's amazing, brother Fischer. As soon as Fischer landed beside him, Natsu excitedly leaned over, with a look of admiration in his eyes. As a result, this guy got a solid blow to Fischer's head. It hurts. Clutching his forehead, Naz cried out in pain, but the pain disappeared in the next moment, and Naz showed an excited expression again. Brother Fischer, I will become as strong as you, Brother Fischer. Natsu said to Fischer. Yes, you just work hard, but you are working hard at the Maldian Academy of Magic. Fischer glared at him and said, if it weren't for this guy, how could he do it on the battlefield? Fischer. At this time, Irene also ran over with a smile on her face. I didn't expect you to join the battlefield so soon, but, Irene, you have become much stronger, Fischer said with a slight smile. Although he just glanced at it just now, Fischer knew that among the Dragon Slayer wizards present, Irene was the only one who could single out the giant dragon. Although there are reasons for Lumen Xingyue, this result is already very terrifying. After all, it took more than a month for Irene to be empowered with dragon power and learn dragon magic from the dragon clan, but within a month, Irene's dragon magic has grown to this level. It should be said that the battlefield is indeed a catalyst. Only an initiation that has experienced blood and war can become stronger so quickly. In contrast, those protagonists in the original book who did not fight the dragons and did not have this pressure are really very unbearable. The speed of that strength increase is no different from that of a turtle crawling. After being praised by Fischer, Irene suddenly became shy, and 2 blushes appeared on her cheeks. Bang bang bang. At this time, many dragons of the Affinity faction also came to Fischer's side. As for the Dragon Slayers, they didn't come over because they were packing up the corpses of their companions. War is cruel, not just a joke. The Dragon Slayer created by Fischer was on the battlefield for the second time today, but only half of it was left. The first time I went to the battlefield, I lost half of the 857. The remaining half were the ones who practiced the Dragon Slayer magic very powerfully and came out of the big waves of gold mining. However, this time the battle still lost 8 Dragon Slayer wizards, and it was torn into pieces by the giant dragon, leaving no remains. Fischer, I didn't expect you to be so powerful. As soon as it landed, one of the giant dragons spoke in a surprised tone. He knew that Fischer was very powerful, but he didn't know that Fischer was so strong that he killed a giant dragon with one blow. The other dozen dragons also looked at Fischer curiously. Well, it's just an unexpected result. I just carried the attacks of the other dragons, Fischer said with a faint smile. The situation just now seems to have a very favorable upper hand, but only Fischer knows that the situation is also very dangerous. Although Fischer instantly killed one of the thunder-type giant dragons, he also withstood the attacks of other dragons. If Fischer hadn't reversed part of these attacks, weakened the attacks and healed himself, even if Fischer would not have been seriously injured by the attacks of the giant dragons just now, the injuries would definitely not be serious. Moreover, it was only after obtaining dragon magic that Fischer had the power to instantly kill a giant dragon with one blow. Because dragon magic restrains the dragon clan. Although Fischer, who has not obtained dragon magic, can defeat the dragon, it will take some time anyway. Of course, super magic is an exception. Chapter 248, Words of the Wise Dragon, Raw Rice Cooked into Mature Rice. After the battlefield was cleaned up, the Dragon Clan and Dragon Slayer wizards of the Doragunov Kingdom returned to the Doragunov Kingdom. Fischer did not take Natsu back to Maldian Academy of Magic, but followed Irene back to the Doragunov Kingdom. During the period, Fischer and the others also encountered Basirian and last Raphael who rushed over. Although the 2 dragons who rushed over were very surprised, they returned to the Doragunov Kingdom together. Fischer, it looks like you won't be able to stay out of it even if you want to. The ability of elementalization is very feared by the Dragon Clan. The old man guesses that Aegelus and the others will definitely find a way to deal with you. Maybe I will use forbidden secret techniques to create a more powerful lightning dragon to deal with you. After learning what happened on the battlefield from his companion, Basirian said to Fischer, as a Dragon Clan, although they belong to different factions, Basirian knows the Dragon Clan's attitude towards an enemy like Fischer. It's okay if it's not an enemy, but if it's an enemy, I will try my best to get rid of it. Because elemental enemies are a very serious threat to dragons. It's really troublesome. I just want to learn magic quietly. Why do those guys come to trouble me one after another? Fischer put his hands on the table and rested on his cheeks, looking helpless. He didn't take the initiative to deal with these killing dragons anymore. Why can't these killing dragons have some self-knowledge? Annoyed himself, he directly joined Irene's side and wiped them out. At most it's just a waste of time. This is a good idea. The Kingdom of Doragunov very much welcomes you to join, Your Excellency Fischer. Basirian's voice sounded, making Fischer, who was thinking, slightly astonished. You can read minds? Fischer looked at Basirian warily. How is it possible? You just said what was in your heart. Basirian complained speechlessly. Did I say it? Fischer was a little disbelieving, and turned to look at Irene, who was on the side. I saw that Irene was very excited at this time, and the look of expectation in her eyes was not concealed at all. Fischer, please be sure to fight side by side with us. Irene sent out the invitation excitedly. Brother Fischer, why don't you join the Doragunov Kingdom? Then I won't have to separate you from Brother Fischer. Before Fischer could react, little Naz, who was beside you, also spoke to persuade Road. You are thinking that I will join the Doragunov Kingdom? Then you can go to the battlefield with me, right? Don't even think about it. Regarding Naz's persuasion, how could Fischer fail to see what this guy was thinking? And a chestnut fell directly on Naz's forehead, causing the little guy to hold his head and hurt. It's something for me to think about. Give me 2 days. During these 2 days, Irene, I won't allow you to join the battlefield. Understand? Fischer turned to look at Basirian and Irene, and said to them, okay, then the old man is looking forward to your good news. Basirian opened and closed his mouth and said, I know, Fischer. Irene blushed after hearing Fischer's exhortation, and responded coyly. Naz has been here for the past 2 days. Irene, please take care of this kid. You must not let this kid run out again. Fischer nodded, and then instructed Irene again. I see, Fischer. But, Fischer, are you going back to Mildian Academy of Magic? Stay here from the next 2 days. I didn't entertain you well before. Please stay this time. Irene nodded in agreement, and then invited anxiously. Natsu's brother Jeref is back. This time it was Jeref who found out that Natsu had gone to the battlefield. That's why I appeared on the battlefield. I still have something to talk to that guy. Brother is back? Hearing that Jeref was back, Natsu was so excited that he jumped onto the table. Brother Fischer, take me back to Mildian Academy of Magic. I want to see my brother. Huh? You're not here anymore? Fischer looked at Natsu suspiciously. I miss my brother. Natsu shook his head repeatedly and said, Jeref has been away for more than a month, and he misses Jeref very much. This time when Jeref comes back, he will naturally go back to see Jeref. Okay, then I'll take you back later, and I don't need to bother Irene. Fischer did not refuse after hearing this, and directly agreed. No trouble, no trouble. However, Fischer, you really can't stay here for a few days. I want to continue learning the additional technique with you. Irene waved her hand quickly, expressing that she would not be troublesome, but then continued to ask in a bit of disappointment. No way. If Naz wants to see his brother, then I must follow him. His elder brother Jeref has been cursed by the Angslem god, a contradictory curse, difficult to control, and will kill the surrounding life if he is not careful. Fischer rubbed Natsu's head and began to explain. I see. It seems that Mildian Academy of Magic is the result of the curse of Angslem god. Basirian naturally knew the existence of Angslem god, and suddenly realized he had been curious before. How could Fischer be the only one who died overnight at the Mildian Academy of Magic? It turned out that another survivor was cursed by God Angslem, which led to the tragedy. Vertical bar God Angslem? Irene expressed doubts. Basirian opened his mouth to explain, but was interrupted by Fischer. You don't need to understand this, Irene. Knowing more is not good for you. I will tell you later. I see. I won't ask any more. Tell me later. Irene was very obedient and didn't continue to ask. Let's leave it at that for now. Since this kid misses Jeref so much, I'll take him back first. I'll be back here in 2 days, and I'll give you the answer then. Fischer nodded, and then he didn't plan to say anything more, and got up and said goodbye to 10 people and 10 dragons. Goodbye, Fischer. Goodbye, Fischer. It's over, Basirian and Irene said in unison. Nodding, Fischer took Natsu and left here. A few seconds after Fischer and Natsu disappeared, Basirian spoke. Eileen, you like Shell? Since this is the case, then take the initiative. The kid is not the one who takes the initiative. The old man advises you to order directly, raw rice and cooked rice. Basirian looked down at Irene, and suddenly said to Irene. After speaking, she flapped her wings and flew out of the skylight, leaving only Irene alone to apply on the spot. Leon had already noticed that Irene blushed every time she faced Fischer, just like a little daughter-in-law. Irene didn't react to Basirian's words for a while. However, after reacting, Irene blushed and lowered her head. Maybe Basirian is right. A voice as thin as a mosquito moan came from Irene, who lowered her head. Chapter 249, The Beginning of the Birth of the Devil. Back at Mildian Academy of Magic, Fischer took Natsu to find Jeref. This guy doesn't seem to be worried about his brother's safety at all. What research is being done in the laboratory at this time? When Fischer brought Natsu over, magic was flying in the laboratory where this guy was. One after another small magic circles are floating in the air, and there are beams of light connecting each other. This is a super compound type of magic. What are you doing, Jeref? Fischer took a large look at the situation in the laboratory, led Natsu through the gap in the magic circle, and came to the center, looking at him suspiciously without even turning his body. Asked Jeref. Fischer, Natsu, come back and pull. Why did it take you so long to come back? Jeref turned around and asked, as if he had just noticed Fischer. Well, I'm back. Natsu is fine. Fischer moved his body away, revealing Natsu behind him. Brother? Natsu hesitated for a moment, then called out. Naz, it's good that you're fine. Jeref also saw Naz, said gently, then turned around and continued his research. He really wanted to hold Naz in his arms, but he couldn't do it. Because once he did, the curse of contradiction on him would definitely explode. So he could only endure his longing for Naz, and cruelly alienated Naz. This situation made Naz feel a little disappointed, but he also knew what happened to Jeref, so he didn't blame Jeref for his indifferent attitude towards him. Fischer didn't say much, and reached out to pat Natsu on the head. Get out, Fischer instructed Natsu. Natsu glanced at Jeref again, and then left the laboratory in response. You haven't answered my question yet. What are you doing? After Nas left, Fischer walked towards Jeref and asked again as he walked. This is the inspiration I got from the creation magic I found in a ruin. I can create a powerful creature, and let Natsu absorb everything from this creature. Then Natsu can immediately gain great power. Jeffco explained without replying. I will call this powerful creature a demon. The devil has its own consciousness, but it can be endowed with powerful power by the creator when it is created. Therefore, the devil can gain great power as soon as it is born. And the demon that is born will be under the control of the creator. Create a creature with self-awareness. It's really easy to say. Hearing Jeref's understatement, the corners of Fischer's eyes twitched slightly. However, Fischer did not expect that Jeref had already had the idea of creating a demon so quickly, and had already started production. I've done a lot of research in that ruins, and I've also created some low-level demons. This time I came back to prepare to create powerful demons. Fischer, I need your help. Jeref turned his head and said to Fischer, You want me to help? Fischer was slightly taken aback. Well, the power of the demon I want to create must be able to resist the death hunt released when the contradictory curse on me breaks out, but unfortunately, my magic power is still unable to create such a powerful demon. So I need your help. With the strength of the two of us, maybe we can create the powerful demon in my mind. Jeref nodded, and then explained. So that's it, is that so? Fischer suddenly understood, and understood it in an instant. Jeref wanted to make Atelius, the demon of fire. If it was the original, it would be at least a few years after Jeref made the demon of fire. But now, Jeref is ahead of schedule, so Jeref, who has not fully grown up, has far from enough magic power. Therefore, this guy thought of letting himself share the magic power needed to make demons. Okay, but later, give me the literature on making demons. I'm quite interested in this thing. It's actually able to create a conscious demon. Fischer directly agreed, and then came to Jeref's side. After walking over, Fischer noticed that there was a humanoid body lying on the research table at this time. It was a child's, similar to Natsu. This body didn't have any breath, and it was very different from human beings. It is obviously a magic prop made by Jeref using various materials. No problem. I will put the magic books and documents found in the ruins in the library later. You can find it yourself if you want. Jerjing nodded in response. So, what do I need to do? Fischer asked after carefully massaging the body of the soon-to-be-born flame demon Atreus. Later, I will use the body connection magic to connect to you and me. Then I can use your magic power. It's that simple. Jeref explained briefly, and then, a magic came from Jeff's body. The hand flew out and landed on Fischer. Fischer could feel that his magic source had been connected. Immediately afterwards, Fischer saw Jeref start to move. Various magic gestures, magic circles, and magic fluctuations that Fischer couldn't understand kept flashing in Jeref's hands, sinking into Atelius' body from his hands. During this period, Fischer could also feel that the magic power in his body was constantly decreasing. Although it was very small, it was indeed decreasing. At the same time, the aura of Atreus lying on the research table gradually became stronger. Beside him, a simple and unsophisticated book is also shining with fiery red light. The Book of End? Fischer thought silently as he looked at the quaint book that was shining with fiery red light. This book related to Atelius is obviously the source of Atelius, the controller. As time passed, Fischer felt that the magic power in his body was passing faster and faster, and the same change happened in Jeref, while the aura in Atreus' body rapidly increased. This situation lasted for half an hour. At a certain moment, a wave of spirituality came out from Atelius' body. Perceiving this spirituality, Fischer narrowed his eyes slightly. Success. Chapter 250, The Prolific Jeref. It's so miserable. I was just born, and I was sealed by you before I saw this world. Looking at the flame demon who was just born and was collected by Jeref in the end book, Fischer slapped his mouth. A little pity. It's the best possible outcome. The mission of his birth was originally for Natsu. Since that's the case, it's better to seal it directly from the beginning. Waiting for him to fulfill his mission after he has seen the prosperity of the world is the most cruel. Jeref sighed slightly. The mission of the end he made from the beginning to the end is to fulfill Naz. It's up to you. What your wife does is up to you. By the way, you said you made some low-level demons in the ruins before. Where are those guys? Fischer shrugged, and didn't want to ask about it. Instead, he asked about the low-level demons that Jeref said before. Fischer is very curious whether the low-level demons made by Jeref are the same demons in the original 9 Ghost Gates and the Gates of Hades. Although it is unreliable to produce so many demons in a month, but think of Jeref's high yield and durable production of Atelius, the demon of fire, in a few hours. Fischer thinks it's possible. Well, why are you asking this? Jeref was a little puzzled, but he still answered Fischer. When those guys were made, they were contaminated with the killing atmosphere in the ruins, so those demons have very bad personalities. I put them away in order not to waste lives. After finishing speaking, Jeff snapped his fingers, and 11 simple books appeared from the air. What else can I do? Since there are these demons, it is natural to make the best use of them. Such a big academy of magic doesn't need to be taken care of. Taking care of the school of magic takes hours of my time every day. If you have these demons, you don't need to waste my time. Fischer rolled his eyes, and then spoke out his thoughts. That's right, curiosity is nothing but curiosity. But Fischer's real purpose is to find some servants to take care of the magic academy. If Jeff didn't bring some back, Fischer was ready to make some himself. Anyway, Jeff has put all the research documents on making demons in the library. With his strong understanding of magic, he should be able to fully master the technique of making demons in a few days. So that's the case. If this is the case, then I will order them to manage this academy. Make the best use of everything. Hearing this, Jeff nodded with a sudden realization, and agreed. Fischer was right indeed. There is no need to worry about the demons running out to cause harm to the world. With the defensive barrier, Fairy Ball, released by Fischer, these demons made by themselves have no ability to break and run out. As soon as the words fell, Zelf released all the demons he created from the book. For a time, the entire research room became overcrowded. Tall, short, fat, thin, everything. Master Jeref. As soon as these demons appeared, they knelt down on one knee, put their hands on their chests, and saluted Jeref respectfully. The next task for you is to take care of this magic academy. Jeff simply ordered. Yes, Sir Jeff. Many demons responded in unison. There is a cherry-haired kid in the academy who is my younger brother. Don't shoot him. Just as he was about to wave his hands to drive the demons away, Jeff thought of something and ordered again. Yes, Sir Jeff. It's all right, you guys back off. Jeff nodded slightly, and waved away people. Yes, Sir Jeff. A group of demons left here one after another, but each of them looked at Fischer with interested eyes before leaving. Even so, Fischer felt that these guys seemed to be harboring ill intentions towards him. Fischer doesn't mind that, though. Fischer's focus now is Jeff's productivity. Good guy. All the members of 9 Ghost Gate and Hades Gate were really produced by Jeff in more than a month. This production speed is not as high as that of Sao's. Mardo Gil, Xing Li Tan Kuang Hua, Fran Mars, Trafsa, Kid Che Ethel, Liang Yu Ishinsura, Black Monk and Keith, Calamity Middle Dot Storm, Jackal, Rummy. The original demons are all here. Although I released all these guys may cause trouble for you, and these guys are a bit troublesome to manage. Jeff glanced at the many demons who left, then looked at Fischer, and reminded Fischer. You did it on purpose. Fischer looked at him and said contemptuously. No, these guys obey my orders very well, and they only obey me. I look down on other people. If you want these guys to be obedient, then you have to subdue them. Jeff explained calmly, shaking his head slowly. 0. Ask for flowers. That's right. Fischer nodded knowingly. According to the personalities of these guys in the original book, these guys only obey Jeff, and look down on others. Star Spirit King, Flame Dragon King, Black Dragon Akunologia. These existences that are stronger than them, they are not a bird at all. It's the kind of character that you are stronger than me, but I just refuse to accept it. Even if I give you their bodies, you won't be able to convince them unless you convince them. Jeff sighed slightly. Whatever, I don't want them either, as long as they take care of the academy and don't waste my time. Fischer didn't care either. Okay, let's talk about the topic. Jeref, what do you think of the dragons from the Affinity faction inviting me to fight against those dragons from the Killing faction? Fischer asked Jeref. This is the only thing I came back here to ask about Naz. As finances matter, Jeff should have made plans, so he doesn't need to worry about it. So the only trouble he has now is this. Speaking of which, those human beings who possessed the power of dragons on the battlefield before created them, they have your aura on them. Jeff pondered. Do you want to kill the dragon? I can't help it. Aaron begged me for help. Fischer shrugged. The queen of the Doragunov kingdom? How did she hook up with you? Irene is now my subordinate. However, I don't really want to help the Doragunov kingdom, except for Irene. Why? Because of human nature. Birds are gone, good bows are hidden, cunning rabbits are dead, and lackeys are cooking. I don't want to help ungrateful people. Human nature is indeed very difficult to fathom. If the dragon slaying is really completed, then it is indeed possible that this kind of thing will happen. I do understand what you're thinking. However, my advice is to help. The queen of the Doragunov kingdom is your subordinate, so she is the one you are worried about. Why? Since that's the case, if you take her away directly after killing the dragon, then everything you worry about will come to nothing, right? Jeff said lightly. Is your suggestion to help? I know, but let's save the child to think about it. Chapter 251, Demon's Submission. Indeed, although I don't want to interfere with Irene's life, but after the dragon slaying, Irene's life will undergo earth-shaking changes if nothing goes wrong, from a hero to a prisoner. Originally, I thought that if the Dragon King class would produce a dragon soul, then I would go find a female dragon, beat her to death, and then stuff the dragon soul into Irene's body to prevent her from becoming a dragon. In this way, Irene's life will turn around. But Basirian said that the reason why Thunder Dragon King's soul stays is because of the dragon soul art. This is absolutely the way to stop Irene from becoming a dragon. After all, There are very few dragons who know the Dragon Soul technique, and it's impossible to give your life for Irene. According to what Jeff said, bring Irene back directly after killing the dragon. That country is not worthy of September 20th to let Irene continue to pay. Sitting straddling the windowsill at the window at the end of the corridor, Fischer looked at the bright silver moon in the sky, thinking silently. Sad. Now it's time to think about whether I want to join the Dragon King Festival War. According to what Basirian said, the dragons are very afraid of elementalization, so they will definitely pay any price to deal with me. As Basirian said, a new Thunder Dragon King may appear. As for how it will appear, this is uncertain, but what is certain is that an elemental Dragon King that can ignore me plus other Thunder Giants once it comes to the door, even I can't resist it now. Jeref, with his current strength, can at most deal with ordinary dragons, even death hunting. It's useless. It seems that the only way is to fight with the dragons of the friendly faction. Of course, I can continue to nest in the fairy ball. Even the black dragon can't break this thing. Also, you can also hide it with the fairy ball. However, this is not my character. Others have knocked on the door. I can't be a turtle. If you want to do it, and destroy the dragon clan. You say, right? Fischer murmured to the last sentence, turning his head and looking behind him. At this time, in the corridor, all the demons released by Jeff today were gathered here, staring at Fischer with piercing eyes. Master Jeref said that you are very powerful. I wonder if you can show it off. With a pair of animal ears and a tail, the jackal moved its hands and feet, and walked towards Fischer with a big grin. Come over. The other demons stood quietly, without moving, with expressions of watching a show on their faces. It's really a newborn calf not afraid of tigers. Regarding this, Fischer sighed slightly. I will be the boss here from now on, and my order is the biggest, understand? In the study, Fischer drank the black tea made by Liang Yu Ishinsera, looked at the book, and said calmly. Xinglishan Kuangwu and Liang Yu Ishinsera, two female demons dressed in maid costumes, stood respectfully behind Fischer. In front of him, the rest of the gate demons of Hades stood with bruised noses and swollen faces. Even Mardo Gil, who will be known as the King of Hades in the future, was no exception. Facing Fischer's lecture one by one, they dare not even fart. Obviously, these guys are tamed by Fischer. As for how Fischer tamed this group of demons who were weak but unyielding to me, I won't talk about the means. Let me tell you, Fischer's strength is very strong, stronger than mine. You just don't believe me. Not long after Fischer's voice fell, Jeff's voice came from the door. Everyone's eyes shifted, and they saw that Jeff was leaning on the threshold at this time, with a faint smile on his face, looking at the demons as if he was watching a show. Many demons suddenly felt that their faces were thrown in, and they were ashamed one by one. Okay, you all step back. I have something to discuss with Fischer. Jeff didn't embarrass Mardo and the others too much, and waved them away with his hand. Yes, Mr. Jeref. All the demons wanted to disappear immediately, and when they heard Jeref's words, they quickly responded, and then left here at the speed of light. You two have become Fischer's maids? Then you don't have to back down. Jeff noticed the outfits of Xinglishan Kuangwu and Liang Yuishan Sarah who were about to leave, and changed the subject of conversation to let them stay. Yes, Sir Jeff. Afterwards, Jeff took out the magic book of the two and threw it directly to Fischer. Who are you? Fischer looked at the two magic books controlling Xinglishan Kuangwu and Liang Yuishan Sarah in his hand, with a puzzled expression on his face. Since I have become your maid, I will send you off. With your talent, you should be able to understand the magic I brought back soon. It's time to change the control right yourself, Jeff said with a smile. Well, since that's the case, I'll be disrespectful. I just need two maids to take care of my room. Hearing this, Fischer raised his eyebrows slightly, without being pretentious, and directly accepted the two magic books. The two powerful demons dealt with it so casually, but as the parties involved, they didn't have any autonomy at all. Okay, tell me, what do you want from me? After throwing the two magic books back into the system space, Fischer went straight to the point. I'm going to fuse Enfanas tomorrow. Come and help me, Jeff said succinctly. So fast? End is made after guessing. Why don't you check it first to see if there are any uncertain factors? Fischer was a little surprised. No way, Natsu said. You may participate in the dragon battle tomorrow. It will be a little troublesome to ask for your help at that time, so I can only advance it, and even if there is a problem, I can handle it. Jeff still smiled indifferently. Are you so sure that I will participate? 5.0 Shell raised his eyebrows in surprise. It's fine if you don't mention it. Since you mentioned it to me, then with your character, it is impossible to let Doragunov's Queen Irene ignore it. Jeff smiled lightly. TCH, you bastard, are you the round worm in my stomach? Fischer smacked unhappily. Don't compare me to that disgusting creature. Jeff was slightly dissatisfied, but then he continued, this is what I came to find you. I will start at noon tomorrow, when the anger is at its peak, and come over at that time. Help. I see. But Natsu agrees? Fischer nodded in response. The child said that he wanted great power, that he wanted to be with me, and that he wanted to kill the dragon with you, so he agreed. Jeff said gently. I see, I will help tomorrow. Chapter 252 Integrating the Power of End. Beautiful. Speaking of which, The bio-linking magic has a wide range of effects. Looking at Natsu, who was already lying on the stage with Jeref, and fell asleep, Fischer said with emotion. At this time, the three of them were connected by a magic. Biological connection magic. This thing has appeared many times in the original work. In the fairy tale Civil War, Luxus Shinming Temple used this magic, and Kuangwa also used it in the Gate of Hades chapter, connecting itself with Fez. Not enough. The effects vary. When making the end last night, Jeff also used this magic in order to use his own magic power. This time it is still the magic. Next, I will integrate and Naz, and I can't guarantee whether Naz's physical condition will cause any rejection during this process. If there is a rejection reaction, then it's up to you to suppress it, Jeff told Fischer with the end book in his hand. Rejection? Knowing that there is rejection, you dare to play like this? Fischer couldn't help rolling his eyes at Jeff's words. No way, Naz urged Onine to urge me after knowing this, and I also hope to be able to contact Naz normally, Jeff said in a flat tone. Although it was very plain, Fischer could sense the urgency in his heart. Regarding this, Fischer didn't say much, but silently mobilized life to Triton. Once there is any problem with Naz's situation, he will immediately activate life. Let's get started. After getting ready, Shell said to Jeff, "You have so much vitality, Fischer. You always amaze me every time I meet you." Not only was Jeff amazed when he noticed the terrifyingly exuberant vitality emerging from Fischer. "Stop talking nonsense, hurry up." Fischer curled his lips and urged. "Yes, yes." Jeff smiled lightly. The next moment, purple light appeared in the hand holding the end technique, covering the end book. Immediately after the book of end, a purple mist emerged and entered Naz's body continuously. A lot of flames burst out of Natsu's body. The scorching flames directly spread to the research table. A series of magic lines quickly appeared on the research platform, turning into a light shield to cover Natsu, blocking the attack of the flames. "It's really a powerful flame, even my current body can feel the danger." Feeling the feeling brought to him by the appearance of the flame just now, Fischer said silently in his heart. It's no wonder that the flame demon Atelius Nazdranil in the original novel dared to challenge the flame dragon king Ignilu. If the strength is not enough, who dares to challenge Ignilu? That guy is absolutely strong among the dragon clan, and it is estimated that Akunologia, who has transformed into a dragon, can defeat Ignilu, and the other dragon kings of the dragon clan do not have that strength at all. Speaking of which, since I'm going to attack the dragon clan, there's no need for Akunologia to show up. The presence of this guy is also a trouble. I have to tell Irene that I can't let Akunologia become a dragon slayer. Fischer's thoughts gradually diverged, and he began to wander off. No, it was directly caught by Jeff. "Fischer, be serious and don't get distracted." Sorry. Fischer also came back to his senses, apologized quickly, and then turned his attention to Naz. Only after looking at it did I realize that there was indeed a rejection reaction on Naz's body. His small body was trembling constantly at this time, and the power belonging to End was constantly overflowing to the outside, as if he was unwilling to be a sacrifice. Naz's body showed signs of collapse under this force, and if the fusion continued like this, something would definitely happen. No wonder Jeff would call himself. Fischer hastily released life, covering Natsu's body. The effect is very powerful. Within 2 seconds after life covered Natsu's body calmed down. The violent power of End also calmed down under the nourishment of life, and Naz's body also quickly repaired under the effect of life. It's really a terrifying recovery ability. Jeff was surprised. This kind of resilience can be compared with the curse of immortality on oneself. After being cursed by the god Anxlem, any injuries he receives will recover quickly. Fischer's healing ability can be compared with his own recovery power. The fusion of Natsu and End is mainly due to the rejection of energy, because Natsu's body is too weak. With your healing ability, there will be absolutely no problem with the fusion this time. After marveling, Jeff observed Naz's situation, and then came to a conclusion. That would be great. Fischer also saw it and nodded in agreement. Time passed bit by bit, and 2 hours passed in a blink of an eye. Everything about E050ND has been integrated into Naz's body, and after the running-in period is over, Naz will be able to master the power of End. However, during the running-in period, Naz would just sleep all the time. "Thank you, Fischer." Jeff held Natsu in his arms and thanked Fischer. He can finally contact Naz with peace of mind now, because the power in Naz's body can already withstand his own death hunting. Even if the death hunting on his body breaks out, the End power in Naz's body will protect himself, offsetting the power of death hunting. "You're welcome." Fischer waved his hand lightly. "Well, then I'll send Naz to rest first." Jeff nodded slightly, and then left the laboratory with Naz in his arms. "Is there something wrong with my brain?" Looking at the way Jeff is hugging Natsu, "Why do I feel so beautiful?" Seeing the back of Jeff and Natsu leaving, Fischer frowned slightly, and a strange thought came to his heart. However, the next moment, Fischer was taken aback by the thought that came up in his heart, and quickly shook off the thought. It's terrible. Chapter 253 Fischer, I don't understand additional magic. 2 days came as promised, and Fischer left for the kingdom of Doragunov. This time, Fischer did not take Naz to Doragunov kingdom, because Naz was still asleep at this time. Although the power event is perfectly integrated, it is obvious that this level of integration needs time to be perfected. Neither Fischer nor Jeff knew how long the kid would be asleep. Fischer also didn't take Yuang Wu and Sarah with him, because Fischer sent these two guys out to find magic materials. In just one day, Shell mastered the magic literature brought back by Jeff. Next time I'm back here, Fischer is going to experiment with making demons. Naturally, materials are needed to make demons, so Fischer sent the two out. Your Excellency Fischer, it seems that you have made a decision. In the atrium, Basirian and other giant dragons who were discussing something seemed to understand something when they saw Fischer, who suddenly appeared, and opened their mouths. It's already been decided. Then, we will be comrades in arms. Fischer strolled over the courtyard, came to Basirian and the others, and waved with a smile. Welcome, Your Excellency Fischer. Fischer, let's fight together. Fischer, would you like to compete with me? Are you looking for abuse? Don't forget Fischer's strength. All the dragons said one by one. Fischer, thank you very much. Irene beside Basirian was more excited than anyone else. Well, facing the excited Irene, Fischer smiled and nodded, and then said, Irene, after killing the dragon, I need you to leave this country with me. This is my condition, understand? Irene was taken aback for a moment, and seemed to think of something. In the next moment, 2 red clouds rose on her cheeks, and then she nodded excitedly. Yes, Fischer. I always feel that this guy seems to have misunderstood something. Well, forget it. Looking at Irene's appearance, Fischer blinked. Thod, are those guys doing anything? Fischer turned to look at Basirian and asked. No, not at all. Our fight with those guys is about once a week or so. It's only been 2 days now, so nothing happened. Basirian shook his head. That's right. Fischer nodded in understanding, but then, Fischer turned his gaze back to Irene again. Irene, have you mastered the additional magic? Fischer asked Irene. Now that he is ready to join the human-dragon battle, there is no need for Akunologia to appear. So Fischer wants to cut off this source. I'll be able to master it in 2 days. At that time, I plan to spread the additional magic to other countries, so that other countries will also produce Dragon Slayer wizards, and let the human side unite. Irene nodded repeatedly, and then spoke out her plan. With the power of the Doragunov kingdom alone, it is impossible to produce too many Dragon Slayers. After all, in order to withstand the power of the dragon, the wizard himself needs a strong body. There are not many people with this kind of physique in the Doragunov kingdom, although you can rely on exercise to improve. However, even so, the number of mages who can become Dragon Slayers is not enough. Therefore, other countries need to share this burden. Really, Irene, when the time comes to spread the word, tell the management of those countries not to let a human named Akunologia become a Dragon Slayer. Fischer reminded. Akunologia, I understand. I will notify other countries when the time comes. Although I don't know why the moth specifically reminded this guy named Akunologia, Irene solemnly agreed. Basirian, do you know the location of the opponent's lightning dragon? Afterwards, Fischer turned his gaze back again, looked at Basirian and asked. Are you going to strike first and attack each one? Basirian immediately understood Fischer's thoughts. Isn't that normal? Now that I know the threat exists, I naturally need to eliminate the threat. The one that can pose a threat to me is the Thunder-type dragon, so the opponent's Lightning-type dragon is my first target. Fischer nodded. I'm afraid you will be disappointed. Agras is an old and cunning guy, and it is impossible for him to be unaware of what you think of. The enemy's Thunder Dragons should have been gathered together by now. As far as I know, there are more than 200 Thunder Dragons. Although you are very powerful, it is impossible to resist this force when they gather together. So, Fischer, you should just give up. Basirian replied flatly. Vertical bar I see, indeed, if it were me, I would have gathered the enemies together in the first place. I was lucky, but it seems that I was too naive. Then I can only act with you now, right? Fischer nodded thoughtfully, then glanced at the giant dragon present, and said with a smile. Yes, it is like that. During this period, we must try our best to spread the flame of Dragon Slayer. Basirian nodded. Well, that's it. Then I'll go back to my room first. Regarding this, Fischer had nothing to say, and directly said goodbye to Basirian and the others. Then, accompanied by Irene, he returned to his bedroom in Doragunov Kingdom. Irene, what else do you want? Back in his bedroom, Fischer took out a magic book and prepared to continue his research, but he saw Irene, who was motionless at the door and did not leave. Master Fischer. Irene, who was standing at the door, seemed to be in a state of trance, and Fischer's words brought her, Kiandazhou, back to her senses, and she responded quickly. Irene, don't you have anything else to do? Fischer nodded slightly, and then asked again. As the queen of a country, Irene should have a lot to deal with. No, and, Fischer, I still don't understand some additional magic, and I want to ask you for advice. Irene shook her head repeatedly, then walked towards Fischer quickly, and said as she walked. Yes, tell me what you don't understand, and let me see. Looking at Irene, who came to her side, Fischer was not surprised, and said, Fischer? At the same time, at the Mildian Academy of Magic, Jeref didn't stay by Natsu's side, and after handing over Natsu to Mado and the other demons, Jeff left the Mildian Academy of Magic. However, Jeff's trip this time unknowingly gave Fischer a backstab. Chapter 254 Dragon King Sacrifice, Death of Scum. When Fischer arrived in the Doragunov kingdom, on the other side, in the rolling mountains, 7 or 8 out of 10 dragon clan of the Slaughter faction gathered here. At this time, these giant dragons occupied the mountain peaks one after another, surrounding a huge basin. The aura of a giant dragon closest to the basin is not weaker than that of the Wind Dragon King Aegis. It can be determined that these dragons occupying the forefront are all Dragon Kings. According to a rough calculation, there are at least 20 Dragon Kings. In front of the Dragon Kings, in the basin, a group of Thunder-type giant dragons of different colors are waiting in battle. In the center of the basin, more than a dozen Thunder-type giant dragons are fighting fiercely. After one of the giant dragons killed a similar one, it raised its head and took out the magic crystal in its body, and swallowed it in its mouth. In an instant, a powerful thunder erupted from the body of this Thunder Dragon, which was a bit stronger than the previous thunder. Many dragons watched this scene without any expression change, very calm. This is the Dragon King Festival of the Dragon Clan, which is different from the Dragon King ceremony that will affect the entire Dragon Clan in 307 in the future. This is just the Dragon King sacrifice in the same category as the Dragon Clan. After defeating the opponent, the winner can take the loser's magic crystal, that is, the heart, as his own, and swallow it into his body to enhance his own strength. This kind of Dragon King sacrifice was handed down from ancient times, and it was only held once. The winner at that time was the former Thunder Dragon King Ra. Now that Ra has fallen, the Dragon King sacrifice of the Thunder Dragon begins again. The final dragon will continue to fight, and the Dragon King sacrifice will only stop when a lightning dragon that is powerful enough to the level of the Dragon King appears. And the new Thunder Dragon King is the most powerful Thunder Dragon. This kind of thing seems cruel, but there is absolutely nothing wrong with there being no dragon among the Dragon Clan. This is also the so-called ceremony that Bessarion said. When this ceremony is over, it is estimated that it will be the time when the Slaughter Dragon Clan sets off the station again. As for these, Fischer is completely unaware. At this time, Fischer was with Irene. Fischer never thought that Irene would be so proactive. Although he had a crush on Irene, Fischer didn't think of it at all. Because although I am old enough in my heart, my body is not that old. As a result, it was handed over in such a daze. Looking at Irene, who dared to do what she didn't dare to do, with flushed cheeks, Fischer curled her lips speechlessly. Okay, let's not talk about this, let's go. Now is the last country. After adding magic to this country, we will go back. See if I don't take care of you when the time comes. Fischer glared at Irene and said. Irene's face turned even redder, and a voice as small as a mosquito groaned. Up to you. 5 days had passed since Fischer arrived in the Doragunov kingdom. During these 5 days, apart from being occupied by Irene on the first day, the city Irene took Fischer to various countries for the rest of the day, spreading the creation magic and additional magic of the dragon slayers. If it's Irene, maybe it hasn't reached the level of teaching others, but isn't Fischer here? Fischer has a relationship with him, so it's natural that we have something to do together. So Fischer took the initiative to take over this matter. Soon, Fischer and Irene arrived at the final battle, a country called Beldoria. From afar, the two of Fischer saw this large group of people gathered in front of the castle. They were the welcoming staff of the Beldoria country. All the countries were very happy with the information that Irene sent before, and all of them were eagerly waiting for Irene's favor, and Bertolia was no exception. This time, the welcoming personnel were headed by the general of the kingdom of Bertolia, plus a group of ministers. It's finally here. As long as there are dragon slayers in our country, the threat of dragons will be greatly reduced in the future. The general in armor and with a sloppy beard smiled as he watched the dragon slowly coming from a distance. Carriage, said excitedly. Behind him, all the ministers were also full of smiles. There is no country in this era that is not afraid of the threat of the Dragon Clan. Although there are giant dragons from the Affinity faction that block the dragons from the Killing faction from time to time, it's a drop in the bucket. The number of dragons in the Amigo faction is too small. On the human side, there are only a handful of people who can pose a threat to the dragon. Now that there is magic that can restrain giant dragons, they naturally can't wait to master it. And in the carriage in front of them, the queen who is about to come is their hope. However, hope can also turn into despair. Just like this scene, a pink arrow fell from the sky and landed directly on the defenseless general. The general of Bertoria Kingdom turned into a stone statue in an instant. What's going on? All the ministers panicked immediately, and the surrounding guards were also panicking, holding up their long daggers and guarding the surroundings fiercely. Not far away, in the carriage, Irene looked at Fischer with some doubts. Fischer, what happened to that general? Irene is very clear that the pink arrow just now was fired by Fischer. Its speed is so fast that even Irene can't see its trajectory clearly. I only know that the arrow has already penetrated into the general's body when it reappears in the middle, because the general's whole body was directly petrified. Damn him, Fischer said flatly, without too much explanation. The general who was petrified was the Scum who married Irene in the original book. so Fischer didn't have any intention of keeping his hand. The first time he saw him, Fischer gave him the death penalty and sentenced him on the spot. That's right. Seeing this, Irene also knew that Fischer would not explain, nor did she care. The two continued to drive towards the gate of the castle in the carriage. Chapter 255, Start. Fischer and Irene didn't delay in spreading the task of Dragon Slayer, and completed it very quickly. Afterwards, the two of them directly used Blink to return to the Doragunov kingdom. The dragon clan of the Slaughter faction has completely disappeared during this time. In the past, news of dragons attacking humans came back from time to time from all over the mainland. But during this period of time, none of this kind of news came. This is also a good time for human beings to recuperate for a while. Dragon slayers in various countries have already begun to train. Although it is to spread additional magic to other countries, but if it is only to spread additional magic, with the strength of several countries, I don't know how long it will take to master the level of being able to add dragon slaying magic. So when Fischer and Irene were teaching additional magic, they helped several countries make a batch. By the way, several countries now have giant dragons of the Affinity faction sitting in town, doing their best to cultivate dragon slayer mages. And the Doragunov kingdom has the most friendly dragons, and the most professor resources. In addition, the first batch of dragon slayers participated in 2 wars, so the growth rate of dragon slayers in the Doragunov kingdom far exceeded that of other countries. Moreover, perhaps because of the enormous pressure caused by the existence of the giant dragon of the Slaughter faction, half a month has passed, and the dragon slayer mages of the Doragunov kingdom have all reached the level of S-class mages of later generations. Even stronger. Are you reading again, Fischer? You are really eager to learn. In the cool gazebo, Fischer sat at the stone table and watched quietly with a simple magic book. Irene's figure walked slowly from the corridor, and said gently, the relationship between the two is very close now, so Irene is no longer as cautious as before, and treats Fischer as a lover. My original purpose was to learn all kinds of magic in this world. If it weren't for the threat of the Dragon Clan this time, I would probably still be in the Mildian Academy of Magic. Since the dragons are silent now, I can only continue to learn magic. Fischer closed the book in his hand, said with a smile, and then pulled Irene over, let her sit on his lap, and jaw rests on Irene's head. For Fischer's sudden behavior, Irene did not resist, but gently pressed her face against Fischer's chest, quietly listening to Fischer's powerful heartbeat. Fischer, after the scourge of the Dragon Clan is over, I will resign from the throne and go to the Mildian Academy of Magic with you to live in seclusion. Hearing Fischer's heartbeat, Irene said in a gentle tone, feeling extremely relieved. That's natural. Even if you don't want to, I will reward you to go back, Fischer said with a smile when he heard this. Hee, that's good. I'll wait for you to take me back when the time comes, Irene also said jokingly. Hearing this, Fischer didn't say anything, but gently stroked Irene's hair with one hand. But his face was a little sad. The relationship with Irene has developed to such an extent that Fischer never thought about it. However, since Irene has become his own woman, Fischer will naturally not keep Irene here when he leaves this world. Fischer started thinking about this matter half a month ago, and for this reason, Fischer even searched for the system. As a result, it is conceivable that the system lost its chain at a critical moment, and did not answer Fischer at all. Diving. So Fischer has been fretting about this for a while. If it doesn't work, then I can only raise my Nianchi cultivation to the limit. By then, I will become a god in this world. If I become a god, I should be able to open up this world. Take Irene and leave. However, I'm afraid that Mother Ankh will come to make trouble. Also, if it's my own power, I don't know where the coordinates of Hunter's world are. These are 2 troubles. Staring blankly ahead, Fischer's thoughts diverged silently. Fischer, what's bothering you? As if sensing Fischer's emotional changes, Irene raised her head and asked worriedly. No, it's nothing. Irene's words brought Fischer back to his senses, and he shook his head quickly. Seeking flowers. I was thinking, I need to work harder, Fischer said with a smile, and then a princess hugged Irene, and walked into the corridor. Perhaps because of his new experience in personnel affairs, Fischer has a deep understanding of this kind of thing, and he became Irene's husband, so the future Fairy Queen Ayers needs to work hard on her own. Work hard and strive to create the future Fairy Queen in the fastest time. For the next half-month, the giant dragon of the Slaughter faction remained silent. Apart from making little Azza with Irene, Fischer spends the rest of his time improving his mental energy and learning new magic. After learning the spells he brought, Fischer would go back to the Mildian School of Magic to fetch some more magic books. Anyway, it's just a blink of an eye, 2 flashes back and forth and it's done. And what depressed Fischer the most was that Natsu was still in a deep sleep for a month. This situation is very abnormal. Even Jeref, who was wandering outside, panicked, stopped wandering outside, and returned to Mildian Academy of Magic to guard Natsu. During this month, Fischer would take a look at the magic book every time he went back to get the magic book. Natsu's breath of life is still there. Fischer and Jeref guessed that En's power is too strong, and Natsu's physique is too weak, so it takes time for the body to automatically adjust and withstand these forces, which caused Natsu a comatose condition. On this day, Fischer was sitting in the gazebo reading the magic book as usual. However, at a certain moment, the horn in the center of the castle sounded, followed by dragon roars. At this moment, the entire castle entered a state of high alert. Fischer also slowly closed the book, and looked at Irene who was walking in the corridor. Fischer. Arriving in front of Fischer, Irene said solemnly, let's go. Fischer smiled gently and said, Chapter 256, Departure. Yo, Fischer, here you come. Are you ready? As soon as we arrived at the atrium, more than a dozen giant dragons headed by Bessarion were already on standby here, as well as the Dragon Slayer Legion of the Doragunov Kingdom. Of course, the Doragunov Kingdom is not limited to these dozen or so heads. There are also a lot of news about the killing faction of the Seekers that have been spread all over the mainland. The Dragon of the Slaughter faction has moved. Moreover, the Dragon clan of the Slaughter faction had a very clear purpose, flying straight towards the direction of the Doragunov Kingdom. I've been waiting for them to appear. If I couldn't find them, I would have taken the initiative to find them. Fischer smiled lightly and said straight, although it was only a month, 623, his strength has been increasing rapidly. Of course, it is in terms of magic. After all, Fischer's magic talent is too strong, much stronger than his talent, and with the ability to increase tenfold, Fischer's magic can be said to be advancing by leaps and bounds. Even if two Thunder Dragon Kings appear on the giant dragon of the Slaughter faction, Fischer is not afraid. Still, Fischer isn't taking things lightly. Don't think that Ra, the former Thunder Dragon King, can underestimate the Thunder-type dragon of the Slaughter faction after being given a second by Fischer's Goblin Brilliance. Previously, Fischer was able to succeed because only the Thunder Dragon King had a Thunder Dragon. But now this upcoming war will definitely not have only one Thunder Dragon King, there will definitely be other Thunder Dragons, and there are quite a few of them. Fischer wants to repeat the trick is absolutely impossible to achieve. The law of the Goblin can also pose a threat to these guys, but, just like the Brilliance of the Goblin, I have absolutely no chance to release it. Fischer had thought about letting Bessarion and other giant dragons give him a chance to release the Goblin law, but this kind of thing is unrealistic. Because there are too few giant dragons on their side. With the enemy's target clearly defined, it was impossible for Bessarion and the others to block it. Therefore, the only way left to Fischer is to use Dragon Slayer magic to fight. As for N, although Fischer can also use this thing, the damage of N is still not as great as the Dragon Slayer magic's restraint on dragons. For example, using N to fight dragons, Fischer needs to use 7 stacks of strength to be able to damage dragons and kill normal dragons. And if dragon slaying magic is used to restrain dragons, Fischer only needs to use 5 levels of magic power to cause damage to dragons. Of course, when you have to, you still have to use N. You are really confident, but you can't underestimate the enemy. After all, on our side, except for Fischer and you, we are all at a disadvantage in other respects, Bessarion said with a smile. Although it was a smile, the dragon's face was slightly ferocious. I know that. However, Bessarion, don't you really become my subordinates? If you become my subordinates, you can improve your strength while fighting. In this kind of life and death battle, you can quickly improve your strength, which is also a life-saving measure for you. Means? Fischer nodded, then asked. The rapid increase in strength will make you more secure on the battlefield. Impossible, unless we die in battle. Fischer, you'd better stop talking about this kind of thing. Hearing what Fischer said, Bessarion refused without thinking, and his tone was a bit bad. Fischer had mentioned this matter to Bessarion and other giant dragons half a month ago, but the dragons were too proud to agree to such a thing. If it weren't for Fischer's strength, and he was on their side now, and Fischer proposed such a thing, they would definitely have a fight with Fischer. As for the previous 2 members of the Water and Fire clans, it was Fischer's reward for resurrecting them, and Fischer did not do anything to shame the Dragon clan, so Bessarion did not stop them. But now that they were alive, it was naturally impossible to agree to such a thing as Fischer. The other giant dragons also looked at Fischer dissatisfied one by one, and groaned dissatisfiedly from their noses. Yeah, that's really a pity. Then I can only wait until something happens to you and then turn you into my dependents, Fischer said with a little regret. Let's talk later. Okay, let's stop here. It's not too late, we should set off. Bessarion interrupted Fischer's words with some annoyance, and then began to issue the order to set off, flapping his wings soaring into the sky, and leaving the atrium. The other giant dragons also gave Fischer a dissatisfied look, and then flapped their wings and flew out one by one. It is not to blame for the reaction of these giant dragons. After all, Fischer is cursing them to death by saying this, and it is strange to have a good face. Irene on the side had already covered her mouth and snickered. Okay, don't laugh, I'm going first too, you guys will follow up later. Fischer gave Irene a white look, and then said, okay, we'll be there soon. Irene didn't let Fischer take her to set off. After all, she is the captain of the Dragon Slayer Legion, and she wants to lead the Dragon Slayers to fight. The Dragon Slayers are still here. Fischer nodded slightly, and then kissed Irene lightly on the forehead. The next moment, 4.1 Fischer left the castle of the Doragunov kingdom with a flicker. "We'll be there right away, Fischer. Hold on." Looking blankly at the ground where Fischer was originally on, Irene murmured slightly in a daze. Immediately, Irene turned her head to look at the many dragon slayers who were already on standby, and issued orders loudly. "The Dragon Slayer Sorcerer Legion listens to the order. The whole army sets out." "Yes." The high-pitched, loud, and orderly voice resounded throughout the atrium. On the other side, when Fischer reappeared, he was already on the head of Basirian flying in the sky. "It's not good for you to appear on the old man's back. Why are you standing on the old man's head?" Chapter 257 Tragic, surrounded by Fischer. "It's so tragic." As soon as he arrived at the battlefield, Fischer couldn't help saying these words. This time the war was too tragic, for the Dragon clan on the side of the Affinity faction and the Killing faction. Because there were too many dragons attacking this time, the giant dragons on the front line of the Affinity faction couldn't handle it at all. When Fischer, Basirian and others arrived, 2 giant dragons had already died. In the battle between the Dragon clan and the Dragon clan, it is impossible to tell the winner without a day or two. The reason for this result is that the number of killing dragons participating in the battle this time is more than 3 times that of the friendly dragons. Therefore, in just a short 10 minutes, the dragon on the side of the Affinity faction was already in jeopardy. Seeing this scene, Basirian and a dozen or so dragons and the other friendly dragons that met on the way rushed out without any hesitation, and fought with the killing dragons. However, even so, the number of giant dragons of Slaughter Faction 09 is still twice that of Basirian and other giant dragons. The battle situation is still very bad. Perhaps the situation on the battlefield can only be improved a little when the Dragon Slayer from the Doragunov kingdom arrives on the battlefield. As for Fischer, as soon as they arrived here, Sol had already been targeted. A group of Thunder-type dragons surrounded Fischer under the leadership of a Thunder-type dragon whose momentum was not inferior to Roz before. "Are you the new Thunder Dragon King?" Looking at the leading Thunder Dragon in front of him, Fischer's expression was natural, facing the siege of many Thunder Dragons without any panic. "This old man is the new Thunder Dragon King Glassesford." "Humans, report your name." "I don't kill the unknown." The Thunder Dragon with the aura of the Dragon King in front of him said lightly. His tone was extremely arrogant. Fischer Zoldig. Fischer didn't care about this, and put on his name lightly. With a glance, "There are more than 70 lightning dragons surrounding him. It's better to strike first," he said silently in his heart, and the next moment, Fischer disappeared from the sight of many lightning dragons. The pupils of many thunder dragons constricted. The next moment, many thunder dragons, including the new Thunder Dragon King, opened their mouths ferociously, and all kinds of thunderbolts shot towards a certain direction at the same time. In that direction, Fischer's figure quietly appeared. The powerful roar proved to hit Fischer the moment Fischer appeared. Boom! The earth-shattering roar resounded throughout the entire world, but it did not attract the attention of other giant dragons, because at this time, the entire battlefield has gone crazy. There were violent explosions everywhere on the battlefield. Although the roar on Fischer's side was even louder, it couldn't attract attention. After a round of roaring, many thunder dragons did not stop, and a powerful roar was brewing again from their ferocious mouths. Boom, boom, boom. A series of roars continuously bombarded where Fischer was, and there were deafening roars one after another. After a long time, many thunder dragons stopped, flapping their wings one by one and watching the smoky place. Many thunder dragons are waiting intently, staring at them, even breathing a lot easier. The atmosphere of this battlefield is tense to the extreme for a while. Many thunder dragons know that Fischer has the power to kill them instantly. Among the thunder dragons present, except for the Thunder Dragon King, each of the other thunder dragons had just faced Fischer alone. Didn't read the news before. The 7-headed clansman started to deal with Fischer. Appearing in front of Fischer alone, and still as an enemy, isn't that courting death? Moreover, Fischer still has the ability to turn elements into elements. Even if so many thunder roars hit Fischer, they dare not relax their vigilance and take it lightly. Sure enough, with a gust of wind blowing away the dense smoke, Fischer's figure appeared in front of the dragons. Seeing Fischer appearing, all the dragons felt their scalps go numb, because at this time, Fischer was unscathed, without any injuries, as if the roar just now hadn't hit at all. How is this possible? The new Thunder Dragon King shouted out in disbelief. Even if he was hit by so many roars, he would be seriously injured if he didn't die. Fischer is elemental. He doesn't expect Fischer to be seriously injured, but at least he will suffer some injuries. But there was no injury at all. How could this be possible? The other giant dragons are also staring at Fischer as if they have encountered a ghost. You don't need to guess what the inner thoughts of these thunder dragons are at this time. It is the same as the new Thunder Dragon King Glass. They couldn't believe the scene in front of them. It's really amazing. You can use the thunder magic element between heaven and earth to restrict my actions. You are worthy of being a dragon. At this time, Fischer, who was not injured, stretched out a hand, holding a blue light in his hand. With a black arc, he showed an expression of interest. These giant dragons actually used Fischer's elemental ability to gather the thunder power of the dragons, and laid down a Thunder King on this battlefield. Fischer would be captured by these 063 giant dragons if he made a move. Because Thunder Wang Yang is the power of all dragons, he can also limit Fischer's lightning speed silently. Just now Fischer was hit by the thunder roar of the dragons. It was entirely because of this invisible Thunder King. Just now being hit by the roar of thunder from all the dragons of the thunder type, Fischer himself felt as if he was facing a big enemy, and his heart slowed down by half a beat, because being hit by a roar of thunder of this level even he would be seriously injured. However, after being hit, Fischer discovered something instead and let them growl. Because Fischer found that the broken thunder divinity in his body was actually absorbing the roar of these giant dragons, and then transformed this thunder power into divinity, strengthening the broken divinity. In that round of roar just now, under the transformation of the broken divinity in Fischer's body, the broken divinity that was on the verge of disappearing unexpectedly began to recover. Continue. Looking at the stunned thunder dragons, Fischer stretched out his hand and beckoned provocatively. Thunder dragons. King FK. Fit. Provoked by this kind of provocation, the thunder dragons who were originally violent suddenly broke out, and the colorful thunder roared out one after another. Chapter 258 Becoming a God! End. This battle was very tragic, and the Dragon Slayer mages on the human side suffered countless casualties. Almost all of them were killed or injured. The giant dragons of the Affinity faction were almost killed and injured, just like the real Dragon King Festival. Even Bessarion fell in this battle. This is the result of Fischer taking over almost average dragons by himself. Fischer and Irene were also critically injured. If Jeref hadn't intervened in time at the critical moment, this battle might have directly favored the giant dragons of the Slaughter faction. However, the ultimate destiny is still on the human side. Although the human side suffered heavy losses, all the killing dragons that participated in the battle fell here completely. Nearly 200 dragons fell at one time, which has completely reached the death scale of the Dragon King Festival. It is not an exaggeration to call it the Dragon King Festival. And after this battle, the human side has completely gained a foothold in this world, completely getting rid of the name of ants. After this battle, neither the killing dragon nor the friendly dragon can treat humans like ants. The entire continent ushered in a brief peace. The giant dragons of the killing system did not dare to slaughter civilians at will, and even rarely appeared in front of humans. Fischer also got a short break. Time flies, and in a blink of an eye, 2 years have passed. The battle 2 years ago made the giant dragon restrained, but from time to time there will be a giant dragon attacking the human side, but the number of occurrences is very small, and therefore, the battle between humans and giant dragons has not occurred in the past 2 years. It didn't disappear completely. Instead, except for the country where Irene was located, other countries would launch a crusade against the dragon almost every once in a while. In just 2 short years, the Dragon Slayer mage has grown up completely. Although the battle 2 years ago nearly wiped out the Dragon Slayers, there are still some left, and Irene, the mother of the Dragon Slayers, is also alive. In 2 years, Irene also recreated for the human side. Lots of Dragon Slayers. For 2 years, the Dragon Slayers fought against those maverick dragons from time to time, and gradually grew up in the battles. Some Dragon Slayers even had the power to kill the dragons alone. I have to say that the times really make heroes. If it were the era 400 years later, even if the magic essence in that era was the strongest, it would not be possible to produce such a stunning and talented existence, who would grow to the peak in only 2 years. Among these Dragon Slayers, Actione is the most conspicuous. This guy, I don't know how he appeared, but he became a Dragon Slayer wizard for no reason, and he has an indescribable hatred for the dragon. Every time he encounters a dragon, he almost fights with his life. Care about your own life. Under such circumstances, Actione grew up rapidly, and even got Jeref's dark magic by mistake once, and became a unique dark dragon slayer. Standing in the crowd, the top of the dragon wizard has killed many dragons in fear. None of this has anything to do with Fischer, though. After the battle 2 years ago, Fischer did not take the initiative to attack after sensing the movements of the giant dragons, but retreated to study and practice magic. The battle 2 years ago put Fischer on the verge of death, and let Fischer know that his strength is not invincible. So Fischer put all his thoughts on improving his strength. In the past 2 years, Fischer's strength has improved terrifyingly. Compared with 2 years ago, it has more than doubled. 2 years have passed, and there is no one in this world who is a match for Fischer except God Angstrom. Even Jeref is no exception. However, although his strength is stronger than that of Jeref, Fischer still cannot compare with Jeref in terms of magic knowledge. Sad, there should be an ending. Fischer slowly stood up from his seat, looking at the skylight with a calm expression. The next moment, Fischer turned into the ray of light soaring into the sky, and the Dragon King ceremony officially began. Without any accidents, his strength increased greatly. Fischer, who was almost invincible in this world, easily found all the giant dragons of the killing system and killed them completely. The Dragon King festival was completely over from the very beginning. However, because of Fischer's actions, the entire continent was caught in the flames of war, and the giant dragons of the killing system also fought with the dragons of the Affinity faction. Even if Fischer didn't attack the dragons of the Affinity faction, the giant dragons of Happy were almost killed and injured, and only a few giant dragons of Ignilu survived. The remaining few killing dragons left this continent, and went to other continents with their last breath. So far, the human side has completely established its foothold on this continent and has become the mainstream creature on this continent. However, after the Dragon King Festival, a new accident happened. The dragons who had grown to the peak were mutated one by one due to the addition of dragon-slaying magic, and died one after another. An accident happened to Irene's body as well. Dragon scales grew on her body and changed towards the direction of the dragon clan. However, because of Irene's relationship with Fischer, with Fischer's ability, it is easy for Irene to master the ability to change between humans and dragons at will, so that she is not trapped in the body of a dragon like what happened in the plot for hundreds of years. He was unable to turn back into a human being until he met Jeref. Knowing that Irene lost her sense of taste due to the mutation when she regained her human body in the original book, Fischer would naturally not let this happen. Irene's dragon transformation is perfect without any thickness, and during this period, Actione also turned into a dragon. What's more, this guy has killed Red Eyes, not only severely injured Ignilu and the others, but also went to the Doragunov kingdom to hunt down Irene, was directly severely injured by Fischer, and left Lily's this area with his last breath mainland. During this period, Ignilu and the others didn't know what plan they had discussed with Jeref, and they used the eclipse gate created by Jeref to travel 400 years later. However, none of this has anything to do with Fischer. After the Dragon King Festival, Fischer plunged into the ocean of magic again to absorb magic knowledge. Another 5 years have passed. Fischer has completely completed the tasks released by the system, and then brought Irene back to the Hunter world, starting the journey to the Dark Continent and becoming a god. Fischer, whose strength has increased countless times again, can already occupy a place on the Dark Continent. In the past 5 years, Fischer's strength has been continuously improved, and leading the members of the Zoldyck family, Fischer has opened up a pure land belonging to human beings on the Dark Continent. 10 years later, Fischer's strength has ushered in a qualitative change, and he has completely become a god who is almost omniscient and omnipotent, and has become the top god of the Dark Continent. If you like this audiobook, subscribe the channel for more videos like this. And join my Patreon if you want to support me, link in the description. Leave some comment and let me know if you guys like this story, or you have a web novel you like and want to hear its audiobook. I will be happy to create them for you. Please like, share, and leave a comment on the video.